Hello all! How is it going, everybody? Welcome to the stream. I am Rezi Arenji, the music-loving, deep-diving cat boy, here once again with another Music Talk stream. I hope you all have been doing well. I apologize for not having a stream last week. I just felt it would rather be spent blazing ahead with the script for hopefully the first part of my upcoming glam metal deep dive series. That script is looking pretty good right now. I've got up to, I would say, 30 pages or so of it done. Hopefully I will have that all wrapped and ready to go by middle of July, but making no strong promises on that. But today, I've brought in a few different guests today. This is my first stream where I've had multiple guests on at once, so we'll see how that goes. But this is a podcasting group that I've appeared with a few times in the past. I did a Kiss retrospective with them some time ago, and now, most recently, over the next few weeks, there's going to be episodes posted of a Judas Priest retrospective that I took part in. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the Algorhythms. Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Would you all mind going, I guess, left to right? We got Duke, Meander, and Soren. Would you all mind introducing yourselves?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Duke. I am part 1/3 of the Algorhythms podcast. Born from the Midwest, now I live in Florida. All I do is listen to music and have fun.
Kind of the same. I'm 28, from Indiana. Meander. Trans woman. And struggling and going, juggling job, music, everything, family.
Yeah. It's a living. And Soren.
And I'm Soren. Yep, and I'm Soren. And I live in Indiana. Was born in Louisville, Kentucky, but have been living here in Indiana all my life with Meander. Met her when she was still a man in middle school. Full of ambitions, love to travel the world, love to watch movies, love to play guitar and sing, and I love me some music.
Oh, hell yeah. Welcome to the stream, you guys. It's good to have you on,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was sort of bleeding in what I was gonna ask you guys first, which was like, how did y'all meet and how did you get the idea to form a podcast together? I mean, I feel like that's such a ubiquitous idea nowadays. The few white friends get together and have like a podcast that they put on Spotify or whatever. But how did you guys How did you guys congregate?
This was totally
together?
my idea. I had been talking with Soren about music a lot of the time during car trips on the way to and from shows, and then Duke I met on a Discord server involving Super Gaming Brothers, and
nice.
some call me Johnny, a different server.
Love Johnny on this channel.
We met around 20... Technically, no way. I think I've known you since
2017, 2018.
2018,
Oh, wow.
when
I didn't
before
know
the,
that.
And that
yeah.
yeah.
No, so is the impression
Music
that
was
I
kind of
just met randomly.
with music
Actually,
was kind of a
believe it or not-
topic me and Duke as well, so I figured
Now,
wait,
initially,
let me get
though,
Duke to meet Soren.
right, I was gonna say, I've known Meander since 6th grade, and we actually really knew each other on the trip to Kentucky Kingdom Six Flags with I think it was 7th grade band. It definitely was 7th grade band.
Oh.
And the only reason for that is because back then Meander told me what I thought was the funniest joke in the world at the time that it seemed like nobody else got when I told everyone else, but it was, your mom's like a gas station, you pay before you pump.
Wow.
Middle school.
Classic kid humor.
Though And then, so I did, I guess for the fun of it, I did this call. Meander saw that, and she's like, it was actually around the time she was cooking this podcast, I think, starting around late 2022, around that time. So,
that sounds about right.
Sometime, and then she approached me, she's like, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, I'm down for that. I'm down expressing my opinions to people who are willing to listen. And
and then it was a matter of telling Soren and then, well, the very first episode was the first time Duke and Soren had ever spoken with each other. So
I had it was
it was a time.
I'm just
First episode is
You
that
guys
first
have-
episode is weird because
I'm just thankful though that I chose Van Halen as the second band to discuss because the agreement for the most part on that one was mutual.
yes.
So you guys
Yeah.
had you spend a bit of time finding your chemistry. Is that?
That is
what you're
correct.
saying? Ah.
a bit, yeah.
Because you're dealing with not really clashing personalities, you're also dealing with people's, I think in a general sense, music's for everybody, but everyone's got their own territories about what they listen to. But it's nice to, and I think the best part doing this is expanding your horizons to, like, into me getting more into hip hop, like the rap scene with like Tribe Called Quest, and then a future episode that will be in the making soon. So,
Oh, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Cast,
And what I would also say is
which
this,
is Outcast.
I think there's a lot of people everyone likes music for the most part. It's one of the few people that I think gets us united. But I think one thing a lot of people do, even if they say they're a fan of said artist, I feel like they don't really dig deep enough into an entire catalog. I mean, that's one thing I'll give those Swifties credit for is they certainly will do that with her. But I feel like a lot of artists that have much larger catalogs than what is constantly shoved down your throat on the radio, especially in the classic rock genre.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So I guess y'all are in the music podcasting world now. You have been for quite some time, quite a few years
Like
to
about a
month.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
This is our first year. We're about to complete our first year.
Oh, hell yeah.
Holy shit.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
But what has that been like? And have you made a lot of friends in the space? Like, what other people have you been guesting with in your whole sort of journey as a podcasting group?
well,
I mean, obviously,
I
I'm
have
in you
three other
guys' I'm in you guys' Discord server right now. I'm speaking in your voice channels.
it's like, welcome to the
We're
shack.
glad to have someone like you on that one, Rezzy.
Welcome to the
Red. I
shack.
mean, we had Red on the Coldplay episode.
Oh yeah.
Basically,
We had,
my best friend, and then
There are
me,
quite a few episodes.
Mr. Alan Tate.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, Big Al. Everyone, he has his own podcast called Ages of Rock Podcast, and Big Al's Rockin' Podcast. So definitely, give that a listen, for sure. Big shout out on that one. Yeah, now he and I, the reason I met him in person, he and I go back because his son, and I think his son's pretty cool too, but I liked him because he was in band with me. And his son told me, I was like, oh my god, you get so along well with my dad. And so I actually met him at one of the band fundraising events because his dad was the booster head or something they called it for the fundraiser. I can't remember what they called it, for 2 years until his son transferred to another school. But I kept in touch with him. And he, I always knew him as a big Kiss super fan and a guy who really likes to enjoy music in general.
Hey, he was a chill dude.
Yeah, and I was
he
gonna say
is.
he used to kind of like with
Met
me.
him in person a couple
I do
times
a lot
too.
of a lot of other festivals. He used to go to a festival called Rocklahoma, but I think that one's kind of gone downhill in regards to the lineup that he doesn't want to go to anymore. But he used to go to that one. You know,
That's
he's into
the,
Kiss. And he's into
Rocklahoma's the big glam metal one, right?
not anymore. Not.
Oh yeah.
It's not. I think they do that for the pre-party, but then after that, it's totally different now. It started off as a glam metal one, but not anymore. But
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. But I'm not surprised because glam metal on a festival alone probably wouldn't sell.
Yeah, I mean they're getting up there in age, those bands nowadays. And so
I mean, I
so's the
went to,
audience.
Sure.
Yeah, and I went to Motley Crue's knockoff of Ozfest, the Crew Fest, before I actually went to see them on Ozfest the 2 years they did that.
Oh man.
And Motley Crue. We've talked about, trend chasing bands like Kiss and Judas Priest. Motley Crue is a slightly decent example of that. And here's the issue: is that was getting to the point to where the touring music festival was beginning to die out for the most part.
Yeah.
And to think they made the mistake on the second one to play the entirety of Dr. Feelgood. Oh.
Good lord.
With Vince Neil's voice at that point, oh my god, I can only imagine.
You're asking for a lot of trouble. That's
Honestly, by now, back then his voice actually was certainly not as bad as it is now. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
And it was bad. It was bad then. Neander saw Motley Crue with me on their so-called not-so-final tour.
Yeah. I'll say this much. I'll say this much for Motley Crue, I've been listening to their very early stuff recently, like Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil. That stuff is still solid at its core. That is
sure.
That is a perfect blend of
honestly, they were good until up to Dr. Feelgood, though I have not listened to the John Corabi album. Everyone, that's one of those albums you described as The Elder, where it's got its niche fan base. A lot of people, they say, well, we didn't really give it a chance, and people only hated it because of this, that, and the other. I have not listened to that one yet. There will be something that eventually drives me to do it. It could very well be our podcast if we ever do a Motley Crue episode, which we don't know if we're going to do or not because we don't know their new album's coming.
Hey, oh my god, yeah. With John 5 on guitar. With John 5 on guitar, that's so so wild.
Hi Ace Frehley, you're using John 5? Motley Crue needs him.
I will say, I think that actually the current tour Motley Crue's on right now actually proves John 5 is actually a better guitar player now, because I think actually they might have gotten rid of the guitar tracks that Mick Mars used to play during their live show. And out of all the bands I've seen in concert, Motley Crue used the most tracks. And regardless of what you think about it, I mean, again, I would say that if you can go without a track of any kind, but especially if you're the sole guitar player, you've definitely got something good going for you as a player.
Yeah, definitely. Like Mick Mars, I see the amount of comments I see in YouTube, like comment sections of people saying that Mick Mars carried Motley Crue in the early days, like just musically speaking. I kind of find myself, because they were like just wild party animals, barely holding on to their instruments on those stages and just like fucking going wild, and it somehow all came together in the end.
You do have to keep this in mind as number one. I mean, Motley Crue were one of the early bands to use backing tracks during their show. So, I mean, and I'm not entirely against it. My opinion is that as long as you are still playing your instrument, we can hear that, and you're still singing, all fine with me. And it's pretty common now.
I mean, I understand. I understand it leans into presenting the spectacle aspect of the live concert instead of the live part of things. And that there is definitely an argument to be made for that sort of concert experience. I don't know.
For sure. But one thing I would say about Motley is that, like, up until this recent crappy reunion tour, which I think has been awful, and worst Motley Crue show I've ever seen, for sure.
It is never a good idea when you break up like for one time and then you come back for another fucking tour like a few years immediately after. The Kiss dilemma.
Well, to be fair, Motley lasted 5 without getting back together. I mean, Kiss didn't even last 1.
Apparently it's pizza time for me.
And Judas Priest didn't either.
Pizza
time.
Hell yeah.
Pizza time.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. You just have the Spider-Man 2 MIDI playing in the background mirror for the
I love
At
that
this point, though,
music.
I've just kind of come to the conclusion, though, Rezi, that those farewell tours, I mean, I just think they're all marketing schemes. I mean, they're fun to see.
Absolutely.
Because typically, honest to goodness, I just think that is when they put on the best stage production. and they might put their all into the performance, but at this point, I mean, I'm literally seeing Slayer for the first time, and it's been 5 years almost since they
Wait,
broke
are
up.
Slayer back together already?
Yep, they're doing 3
Yes.
one-off shows in Louisville at a festival that I go to every year called Louder Than Life. They're doing one in Chicago called Riot Fest, and then another in Sacramento, California called Aftershock. And I guarantee a tour or more one-off shows are going to follow.
Oh, fuck yeah, right on. You know, fucking The Sword reunited recently. I saw they're doing concerts in Levitation.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're
Or-
apparently they're playing live shows again. I don't know what they're doing about new music, but I am praying to God that they make more stuff in the vein of Age of Winter and Warp Riders and not whatever like the past 2 albums were.
Well, I think the
Still,
ultimate
I'm
question
over here
that
like,
I think
REM,
maybe-
give tour one more time again, please. You broke up before I could see your ass live.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the original 3 did play like one last show when they were inducted into the Hall of Fame and stuff, including the original drummer who had to like back like two brain aneurysms on stage. So I do appreciate
Ooh, wow. That is,
Yeah,
I was gonna say. So, I think the best question to ask as a follow-up to what you asked. I mean, I've got that. Certainly have it for you, Reziel. I think I have an idea, and I know for you, Meander, but Duke. I mean, how did you guys initially become like just all-around music people? Because here's the thing: it's like you said, everyone likes music, but I feel like, you know, certain people they just don't like get in touch with it the way like maybe the likes of us would.
Video games. Largely video games.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
video games.
I was a kid. I loved video game soundtracks like Grant Kirkhope, David Wise,
Guitar
like, the
Hero,
Rare
and
Rare
Rock
sort of
Band.
shit. Oh yeah,
Guitar Hero,
that was my gateway into like mainstream music, like learning like all sorts of bands from the past. I mean, I also randomly caught like AC/DC in the wild listening to an AMV at one point myself too, but that's neither here nor there. But you know, like I was largely informed by video games growing up with a musical taste. But then I guess, I don't know, as I got more into music history, that sort of shaped like my... And also, like, learning more music in college, that shaped my want to consume more music outside of rock and absorbing all sorts of genres and, like, what I play, you know. Because you know, with what I'm drumming, you know, I'm always trying to absorb, like, outside influences and how to say it.
Right on.
It's like the next session's gonna be like, all right, jazz fusion, here we go. It's like,
Well, for me, I mean, my dad helped a lot with it. I didn't quite click on it
Same.
up until Guitar Hero actually came along. And keep in mind, I had already gone to 3 rock concerts, but Guitar Hero really helped me click extra. But I think before Guitar Hero and everything, I actually think it was seeing Alice Cooper in concert when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and it was my 3rd ever concert.
Oh, yeah.
And that, to me, was like, so, like... what am I seeing, you know?
it's like, right, who is this man?
Man.
No, I
Where
knew
is he
who he
from?
was. I had heard a lot of his music. I had a greatest hits compilation album that he had gotten me for like my birthday or something, but like I didn't realize I was gonna see what I was gonna see. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
What is this
Roger
guillotine?
Waters at that point.
Wait,
Already seen-
wait, what is he doing with that chicken? No, please put it down, sir. Put it down.
Oh my
It's
No,
like,
God.
what really got me, there were 2 things that got me was seeing him quote unquote disappear on stage and the part where he gets his head chopped off during the show.
Oh
mean,
my
like-
God.
I want to ask you, did you, when you were watching that as a kid, did you think it was real? It's like, yeah, they killed the man. It's like, no, it's a performance act.
No, but
Honestly-
I just wondered, you know, obviously, how did they perform that illusion? You know,
I
that
feel
that
like to a
to me was-
kid, that sort of thing would be like a circus, you know?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
exactly
I mean-
right. That is exactly
It's like,
right. And
yeah!
that's also it was kind
Yeah,
of before the
decapitation.
internet. Also, keep in mind, I feel like the internet has kind of really ruined the spectacle of a live show to a certain degree. Like, you can see so much behind the scenes nowadays that it's like I just feel like it's no longer as effective to go to a show, no matter what you enjoy out of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I want to take for instance, there was a. Are you familiar with the Bonnaroo Festival?
Oh, yeah, I've heard.
Well, so Meander and I went to, we only went to the Saturday night of the 3 nights too. We went to a music festival in 2019 with Def Leppard, Ghost, ZZ Top, Cheap Trick, Gojira, Blackberry
Oh,
Smoke,
yeah.
Nothing More, tons of others. And it was great the whole time, but like then seeing like Def Leppard's behind the scenes video of it, it was
Oh.
cool to see. Like, you know, it's not really the same to see Def Leppard ever again because I've seen that now. That to me was the most wild and most raw live music experience I've ever had. And I mean, Meander can attest to this. And I came significantly unprepared. It was almost below freezing that whole day, and it went on till about almost 2 a.m.
I've never seen
Is
Def
the one
Leppard
time
live.
we've seen Def Leppard is the only time we've seen Def Leppard live where Phil Collen is not shirtless.
No kidding.
Every image of that man I've seen, like in modern day, he does not have his shirt on. Like, granted, he can
We
rock
met him
it.
at a Starbucks in Chicago, and we were surprised he still had his shirt on then.
Hey, Jukebox Cowboy, welcome to the chat. And sorry I didn't say hi, Dr. Roberts, earlier, but welcome as well to you two. What was I gonna
Hello.
say?
Howdy.
Def Leppard. I've been interesting. I've been listening to a lot of their earlier stuff recently. You know, obviously with them being one of the originators of this sort of glam sound. Their early albums are. I mean, I don't know how to say it. It feels like they just sort of borrowed from the AC/DC playbook, but glammed it up considerably.
Glam.
I feel like also you can, because Joe Elliott, you know, his voice, even when he does that raspy thing, and I think that's one of the reasons why they strayed away from it, is because I feel like that's one of the reasons why it seems as if maybe he's lost his voice a little bit, is because I feel like that was pretty well out of his range, and I think it kind of hurt his vocal cords.
Oh yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting up there in age, and he was screaming his ass off in his younger days, so I have no doubt that his vocal cords are fucking strapped at this point. Joe
Okay, now let
Elliott
me
liked
ask
one
you
of
this,
his
Reggie.
Instagram posts. What's up?
Have you listened to anything more than Pre-Hysteria?
I remember listening to Adrenalize back in the day. Like, I think
Okay, I think you ought to go. My opinion is this. I mean, people really overlook and underestimate actually how good they are post-Adrenalize, in my opinion, for the most part. I would say the worst album came actually post-Adrenalize, but even still, like...
Slang.
Slang is phenomenal. It's certainly like what Carnival of Souls should have been. Certainly much better than Generation Swine. And also, I think Hysteria is a pretty solid album, and I think that is one of the reasons why they do revisit that on their set list every so often.
Hysteria manages to achieve absolutely sucking and totally ruling at the same time. Interesting take. I kind of understand that.
Words had ever been spoken.
It's totally corporate, but I love it. I love it.
I mean,
Mutt
it's peak
Lange-
'80s cheese. You got to respect it in some areas. They're
Doesn't come
like
off
Oh,
as
Mutt Lange
cringe.
knows how to do it. Mutt Lange is a legendary producer, no question about it. I mean, he is
Absolutely.
honestly just as good, if not better, than Bob Ezrin. I know that's a hot take, but Bob Ezrin gave us music to Elder.
I mean, Mutt Lange, the dude has multiple diamond-selling albums to his name.
Yeah.
In a world
and he's a
where
great
it's
singer too.
in
A lot
a
of people
world
don't
where
realize
it's he sings.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually doing a lot of the backup vocals on it correlates so well with Joe Elliott's voice on Hysteria, particularly Love Bites. He is
Shit.
singing on and actually, the reason I figured that out is because there was a Cars album he did called Heartbeat City that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I think he's singing backup vocals on that one too. I was like, why does that sound like Def Leppard to me? But it's not. It's Mutt Lange's voice doing the backup vocals.
Great
Yeah,
drum
yeah,
machine
like-
sounds. Oh yeah, with the Rick Allen in the first album post Accident. I think that was a really novel way of like reincorporating his playing back in the band. You know, for better or for worse. I did like his drumming, obviously, you know, before the Accident, but he did a phenomenal job reincorporating himself back into the band.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. were you saying, Meander?
I wasn't saying anything.
I thought you were about to say something.
No, it's. I remember, yeah, I like back. I had a middle school glam metal phase back in the day, and what was it? I collected, Def Leppard
It's a
CDs.
thrash metal phase for me.
Oh shit! I mean, I also loved thrash too. I was just basically a metal nerd in general.
Me too. I am still to this day, I would say. I mean, here's the thing about those metal bands is, like, I would say this. Maturing is realizing that all those bands that you liked in middle school, man, it really was cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're. I will say, like, having gone to college for music and learned, music theory and, trained in music, I have an appreciation for just, like, sort of standing back and, like, seeing things objectively as they are. And, like, even as corny or as poorly aged as some of, like, glam metal or even thrash metal has been, like, there's still a lot of it that comes together and that really, really hypes me up. I can't really deny that.
Oh, yeah.
Like...
What I'm also amazed at is that a lot of people say that it was killed by grunge in the 90s. That was only true for the short term because, very few in between 80s bands were actually, selling out arenas in the 90s. Def Leppard was one of the few examples for sure, and so was Motley Crue and Van Halen, if you want to count them.
I mean, glam metal was...
Aerosmith had their biggest selling album in 1993, Get a Grip.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I mean, Aerosmith, I think, did not really start off as a glam metal band. I mean, I think they were always like...
They could have just as easily fallen off the radar with grunge, considering they rode the hair metal train.
Yeah, absolutely.
They could have.
I mean, that's like...
Aerosmith already had a lot of clout from the 70s, though.
Yeah, they were one of those legacy bands, like, kind of same with, like, Ozzy Osbourne,
I mean...
Van Halen.
I speak of Aerosmith, their farewell tour, also known as paying off the lawsuits incoming, so a tour,
Steven Tyler.
Yeah. That is
Generation Swine. Oh god, Generation Swine.
I like Afraid, I'll say that much. That's a good song.
Man, I don't know. That entire album is just like...
I mean, all I know from that is the Todd in the Shadows train records. And I'm like, I'm not looking forward to that when we do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say Generation Swine is better than what I consider to be Def Leppard's worst album, which is... I used to call it X, but apparently it's called 10.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. Would that be Def Leppard's 10th album, or...?
Well, in my opinion, the retroactive compilation album should just be considered an album on its own because everything on it was brand new, and honestly, it was like resemblant of what they did pre-Hysteria for the most part.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
Except for the two ballads. That is one of the more overlooked, like, materials off of that. I mean, they have a song called Ring of Fire on there. It's like, my goodness, like, why didn't they release this in the 80s instead of a lot of what came out after Pyromania?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of...
Aerosmith Mark II.
Alright, let's have a question. I'm gonna be the one bringing up a question.
Go ahead.
Now that we were going in metal, but I was eating pizza at the time.
It's all good.
Oh, yeah, pizza's good.
As far as metal goes, what is the heaviest band you are a fan of? I think for me, Meshuggah would probably be... I'd probably say Meshuggah.
Consistently, it'd probably either be Opeth or Slay. I mean, I know nowadays Opeth are more melodic in their prog metal and stuff, but I don't know. I
love Opeth.
I'm one of those people, or Pantera too. Like, I'm one of those people who considers, like, Rain in Blood and Vulgar Display of Metal, Vulgar Display of Power, rather, or Great Southern Trendkill, even, to be, like, some of the most evil music ever released commercially, and to do so fucking well commercially as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say a bunch of shit about, like, death metal and black metal and all
Oh,
these other
yeah.
underground dark fucking genres, but like for Pantera, for Slayer, for those bands to have been so
Slipknot.
oh
Slipknot,
yeah.
That's a band I'm seeing for the second time again this year.
I've never thought to see a Slipknot, but I bet their concerts are fucking bangers.
I've seen.
And-
I was at the show when I saw him. He saw him the first time.
I mean, they're basically
I took one look. That same day, I was at a mosh pit with during Mastodon, during Meshuggah. I took one look at the Slipknot mosh pit and went like, fuck that.
You're like, this ain't it.
Oh my god.
I'm like, I can tell you, getting in a mosh pit while you're getting in those Meshuggah polyrhythms is hella disorienting in a good way.
Oh my
I just
god.
can't believe that you got in a mosh pit during Alice Cooper's set at that festival.
It was
Hey,
during Bed of Nails.
Hey, I
Oh,
mean, Alice
yeah.
Cooper has some moshable songs
I was
for
surprised
sure.
to see a mosh pit in an Alice Cooper set, but I was like, hey.
That's
Oh,
something
why the fuck
that
not?
doesn't happen, but
I
we've
moshed to the
all.
struts at that festival, and I was gonna say, I mean, there were people actually moshing "Get a Kick of This," Rezi, to Hysteria during Def Leppard set at that Bonnaroo knockoff festival we went to called Exit 111.
Hey, I mean,
Oh, that same festival I got in a mosh pit during Gojira, but here's the kicker. The person that I got in the mosh pit with and who started it was wearing an inflatable Godzilla suit.
oh my god.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I didn't even
Hell
know that. That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Oh my
That's
god.
awesome.
Hey, BRB guys.
Oh, it's all good.
Alright.
Man, I
So for when
I-
we get back,
I don't
So when he
usually-
gets
Sorry.
back, how would we get Soren into King Glizzy?
King Glizzy and the Lizzy Wizzies.
Oh yeah, you guys haven't planned your King Gizzard episode yet, have you?
That's a 2026 thing.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
he-
July that year. It's
he-
at least 2 years out.
by
keep
that
in
point
mind-
they'll have 40 albums out. It's all good.
they'll make 40. They'll
I
probably
think
add 40
I
albums.
think if they don't, I'm hoping until then they're at a steady 2 album a year pace and they don't drop a 5 album a year in 2025. Keep it to the 2 album a year pace. 2026 will have album 30.
I'll say
God.
this with King Glizzy. I think I've heard of them at some point. It wasn't until Meander did a discog of it last year or 2020.
I did a discog run of King Glizzy while I was waiting for Soren to catch up with Queen.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was right when Petra Dragonic came out.
Mm.
and you're like. So I want to ask you two, since you're big Lizzy Wizzy fans and part of the Glizzy Nation.
Sure.
How in the world did you get part into this?
My
Well,
love for
Hero
King
and
Gizzard
Resi.
actually started way back in 2017. Like my first King Gizzard track, I remember one of my friends showed me Sense, and it came up in a few like Spotify psychedelic playlists at the time, and I thought it was alright. You know, I'm not really about that whole psychedelic folk thing usually, so like I just kind of dismissed it, like not knowing that they had like fucking 3 albums worth of garage rock music to that point, you know. But then like fucking around the time Polygon's Wannaland came out, I was in college, and I think I remember seeing like a random video.
Crumbling
I think it was
Castle.
the Crumbling Castle video had come out, and like I remember seeing it in my recommended, and I was I think I was high off my gourd. I saw that video and I was just blown away, and you know, immediately I started diving back into their fucking back catalog. And I saw them at a Union Transfer in 2018. That was a hell of an inaugural King Gizzard concert.
They look fun as hell live, frankly.
Oh yeah, no, they are incredible. I'm looking
They
forward to
are.
seeing them. I'm seeing them twice, like in August at Forest Hills. That's gonna be
Oh shit.
bonkers.
It's so funny too. I've like seen like how many bootlegs. I jokingly told Meander they're like the 20 Australia's answer to the Grateful Dead with how they embrace the bootlegging to the point
They really
they give
are.
the bootleggers their own section to do it. They are the Grateful Dead of this generation.
yeah. Absolutely. You know,
Now
I'm
that
glad
Soren's
too.
here, what would you recommend Soren? What do you recommend to have Soren for a first King Giz?
I don't know, Soren, you're very into prog and that sort of stuff, right? Or
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
sort of
for sure.
clue me into like your all your like biggest tastes, like influences, genres, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I guess
Uh,
Polygon, Dwanaland, and PDA would be the ones he'd gravitate to.
Okay.
yeah, I mean like if
Future
you
Dragonic
love
Apocalypse.
if you love really if you love metal, you love prog music, like I would
Those two are
say
really good.
like Nonagon Infinity, Murder of the Universe, Polygon Dwanaland, Infest the Rat's Nest, and Petrodragonic Apocalypse are the ones to really get. I don't know. I think those are probably the best like heavy Giz introductions.
All right.
Yeah, I
Especially
mean
Polygon. Petrodragonic.
You have
Petrodragonic almost makes Infest the Rat's Nest look puny because
Oh,
of how they grew much better as musicians in the 3 years between those albums.
absolutely.
But let me
No,
ask you this. I've got a question because you kind of did the whole Elder series and how we've kind of expressed our thoughts on it like many decades after that was released when it came to Kiss. But aside from, I know you kind of said something about the Elder, but like, what's an album or something that perhaps you really enjoy, but you don't have that same enjoyment? It seems like a lot of people really hate it.
Myself included.
Good question. I think Presence is Led Zeppelin's like third best album. I don't think Presence gets enough
Ooh.
love.
But
Like
do
off the
people
top
hate
of my head, I don't know like if it's a universally
Might have been my
hated
dad's favorite
album, but,
Zeppelin
like,
album.
Ooh, that's
I mean, it's
that's
pretty
interesting.
solid. It's pretty solid.
I like Presence. It's in kind of the bottom. To be fair with Led Zeppelin's, like almost all their albums are consistently amazing. Even I'll argue even the last two ones, the last one that was
I'm trying to
actually
find mine.
and Coda.
Change
Coda
is
Art-
one of the very best King Giz records. That might be a
Oh.
take.
Yeah,
I think
changes.
for me,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's
Go
in my
ahead.
top 4 King Giz.
Change is fantastic. I remember ranking that S tier, and I think I'd still put it S tier to this
I was
day. But
It's actually
But-
funny.
Being a
Before we started
proghead,
the show-
I would say for me, one album.
Even wait
that
for a King Giz introduction. Just watch Rezzy's videos on him.
oh yeah,
That's a
big
good
love
idea,
for
that's a good idea.
Presence. Big love for Presence.
That's a
Hell
good idea.
yeah.
But what I would say one album that I feel like it's way too much hate. Now, being a prog head and this actually being my introduction to the band, I mean, I guess it kind of holds a better place in my heart. But I think Yes's Talk album is the one thing that I think way too much hate. So
I have
You hate
never-
that album.
I won't say it's their best. I'm far from it, but
Mm.
I don't think it merits all the hate that it gets.
I've honestly never given like '90s Yes.
I'm trying to
fair
think of a
shake
Dream Theater
outside
album
of-
that I think of that.
outside the Astonishing. Are you
I think
one
that's
of those defenders of the
I
Astonishing?
think
That's probably my
Relative
second
Golden
week.
Reload
That's
kinda
probably the
falls
second
into that
weakest Dream
category
Theater
too.
album, but I don't think it's as terrible as people make it out to be. But it's
I'm,
more mid
uh,
than bad. But
I'm a Final
I
Cut.
think
I'm a
6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is pretty damn underrated.
I am the believer of the Final Cut from Pink Floyd. So
Oh yeah, I love the Final Cut.
Also,
I-
Still
no,
Life from Opeth.
Yeah, that's-
Silent
Meander knows.
Spring.
Meander knows like my complicated history with like Roger Waters, especially with Final Cut, is
Oh,
like
yeah.
it is like so. it's like an enigma at points. You just ask yourself, what the hell am I doing? But
I mean,
Or-
if you accept that it's just basically a glorified Roger Waters solo project, there is
Yeah.
some truly incredible stuff on that album.
which by the way, let me go grab something real quick. Let me.
Oh yeah, like Not Now John, that's a banger. I mean, it's the only one that David Gilmour had any real input on. But
Oh God.
Before I grab it, is for all you out there, I do collect vinyls. I just need to grab the vinyl of the Final Cut, which I love that album because it's so complicated to listen to me. It's like The Wall, but
yeah,
somehow
yeah.
which
But I think another album.
Heard
or actually,
someone-
two
I heard
albums,
someone
but
describe it as disc 3 at the wall.
Basically, I mean, it's basically an aftermath.
I mean, it was. Remember, it was supposed to be a. Give me a moment. I need to plug my.
Like Spare Bricks or something like that.
Yeah.
It was fair break, but because of the Falkland Wars, which for those who know, it was basically Argentina former.
Who am I kidding? I remembered underrated ones. Jethro Tull A.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
I mean,
Sure. Oh my
it-
gosh, I
it's
love that.
good.
album.
Also Stormwatch.
Yeah,
Mm.
Stormwatch. But the
Jethro Tull's
Falkland
one of
War-
those bands that I obviously have love for. Aqualung. That's a classic fucking prog
Hey,
album. But I've never really delved much further.
Oh.
Maybe I've listened to Thick as a Brick. Like
All
one
of their
time,
70s
but-
Thick as a
stuff
Brick.
is worth listening to, and I think everything through A is worth listening to. After that, it gets a little spottier.
Momentary
especially
lapse.
Undercraft.
Momentary lapse of income.
I mean, you know what, people, I like to point out, Final Cut's Roger Waters solo. I think the antithesis is Momentary Lapse of Reasons is a David Gilmour solo album that just so happened to be a Pink Floyd album. Because it just,
There's
Yeah.
a lot of good things on Momentary Lapse of Reason, but it's much more dated than a lot of
Yeah,
Pink
because
Floyd's
of-
albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which if you want to prefer listening to it, I say go listen to the 2019 redux of it, where they actually.
Oh yeah.
The main problem with Momentary was what happened was Roger Waters broke Nick Mason to the point he can't drum, which if you listen to Two Suns on the Sunset, it has a very specific rhythm that Rogers couldn't get. So then it was I do have Andy Newark was brought in as a session for that.
Oh
It
my God.
destroyed Nick's confidence to the point he only did like drum machines. They
Yeah.
redid they added drum stuff. So I need to get my hands on the Vision Bell vinyl soon. So
So now we're gonna go on Duke's vinyl collection, which spans from Kendrick Lamar to soon-to-be Prince, getting that
Oh,
Purple
yeah.
Rain on a purple vinyl.
Copy of Alice Cooper's Killers.
I also want to point out that thank you, Grant. Grant said not now, John. I'm gonna say right now, my dad hates that song off Final Cut because he just thinks Rogers going like fuck all that is like so. Well, I love.
It's
the
not
line
even
was like,
it's not even Waters. It's Gilmour, right? That's his only vocal credit on the album.
no, all of them are sung by Rogers. So
Oh.
yeah, this is.
I
we
mean, I
say
know
bonafide-
Rogers sings on that song too, but I. My God.
under wrap, but yeah, it's all over the place. In terms of again, the vinyl is like something that. But the vinyl is like really fun to like collect. It's like collecting physical like DVDs and CDs. It's just instead of
Absolutely,
tiny discs. The thing is, and if you to the people who want to get into it, I want to say don't be surprised if you have to shell loads of money just to
Oh my
get
God.
it because
yeah,
I mean,
that's the one thing
70s
that's
albums on vinyls, Duke.
that's the one thing that's
All
preventing
of
me
them.
from going balls deep in vinyl collection. Like I've
Yeah,
said
don't-
I said
yeah.
last music talk stream, that I I have like a vinyl player in like my background image or whatever for my my videos, but I don't actually have the vinyl player there in reality. I would love to I'd love to buy a cheap player, but I know that you get what you pay for in a lot of regards. So
Yeah.
like,
Definitely.
I mean,
I don't want to end
Especially
up with
towards
like a fucking
technology.
Crossley.
Oh yeah.
I-
Oh yeah.
I have a Victoria, which my sister lent it to me because it's a really interesting story. It was so her now fiance, because she just got engaged yesterday, so congrats to her.
Mm.
Her fiance's dad, Grant, I don't know he was coach of the local community college's basketball team, the ladies. One
Oh,
of them
yeah.
was like an exchange student from Australia. She left her stuff, including a Victoria vinyl, and she's like, yo, do you want this? I'm like, hell yeah.
Wow.
I got it for dirt cheap. But although I must say, Mr. P second taking difficulty taking Roger stuff seriously. Not really. I honestly.
I mean, I won't go to bat for the fucking
Dark Side of the Moon Redux.
yeah,
Oh,
the
God.
Dark Side Redux.
But if we're,
He's definitely gotten a lot more set in his ways in his older age,
Oh,
and
God, I did
it results in
listen to
a lot
Redux.
of
God.
bad cliches just sort of cropping up. He definitely was.
It's
cooking
really
in his early
incredible how
days.
Roger managed to get a 10 out of 10 album and a 0 out of 10 album with the same material 50 years apart.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
his
11
Van
out of.
Halen 3. I kid you not. It is his Van Halen 3.
No, it's his.
Or
It's
Music
his.
of the Spheres. It's equivalent to
No,
Music
it's
of the Spheres.
No, it's worse.
I think it's
Oh,
worse
yeah,
than
no,
both.
That's possible. I'm just trying to give it any kind of context. No, you're
But that's
right.
fair.
It is far worse. And you know what? I mean, Roger Waters to me, it's kind of like Dave Mustaine. It's like it just can't stand to listen to the guy talk.
Yeah.
If we're talking Roger Waters solo, I recommend just doing the other what was supposed to be actually. It was actually funny enough. This was demo tapes in the late 70s, around the time like he was doing the wall demos. That
yeah.
would become Hitchhiker's Guide.
Pros and cons of hitchhiking.
Pros and cons. I almost said the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That would have been a wild ass album.
That is a really good one. I say me
And
and
also-
I have seen Roger recently in concert.
Oh,
2022.
I tell you
Did
what,
you-
I would have loved to see that fucking wall tour he did back in 2012. My
Yeah.
friend back in
I
high
saw
school
his,
went to that, I think, and he was
I-
raving about it.
Also,
I
Amused to
saw,
Death from
Dark Side- I saw
1992.
Dark
That's
Side
a
of the
listen.
Moon.
All of his solo work sounds like the worst parts of the wall. Yeah, I can't really vouch for that. I haven't really plunged that far into his solo discography, admittedly.
No bad idea. It's one of those where it's like Amused to Death. This sounds so brilliant. Then you get like nothing. I almost said nothing rains kids. Like no, that's the guy we don't talk about now. The
yeah.
certified lover. I can't say it on the air. Certified lover boy guy. But he went from like Amused to Death, just a fantastic album. Then it's like 2017. Oh, drop it out. I'm just good if you both did it now for some reason.
Dave Mustaine drug tests his band members. Yeah, Dave Mustaine, he's a very, very interesting
There was
person.
the
The
one
boy-
time Dave Mustaine in the 90s when he was still a druggie. Dave Ellerson just got clean and, oh god, Dave Mustaine went like, I gotta get my friend back. He spiked Dave Ellerson's drink.
Oh
Bruh.
my god.
The
Bruh.
thing, though, in middle and high school, people actually said, and I did my best to do it, people would say sometimes I looked like Dave Mustaine.
Oh gosh.
I don't necessarily see a resemblance, but I mean, it's the hair probably and like the facial expression.
It's the red hair. It's the
Yeah. Which I don't have right now, but I had a reddish brown hair like in middle and high school, and I have dyed it to that color because that actually does look good on me, but
Oh, Nate.
I don't know.
It's a huge
Certainly not in this avatar I look like him. Certainly not.
Was a huge fan of The Wall back in the 80s, but listened to it recently, hasn't held up that well. See, I will defend The Wall, though. I think that was a very particular spot Roger Waters was in his life that he expressed just brilliantly the only way he knew how.
I might be the
I would
biggest.
agree with that for the most part, Resi, but to me, I like The Wall, don't get me wrong, but I feel that way, and funny enough, it's also produced by Bob Ezrin, the way you feel about Destroyer. Kind of,
Oh, yeah.
And the same way screaming for vengeance. It's like, but you know something? I feel like that Pink Floyd have much better material than that.
Yeah.
Man, much worse. Too.
3
Much
albums
worse.
before it.
I mean, here's
I do wonder. It does make me wonder after rewatching the Wall movie about a few months ago. You know, what if they really did make that other movie? That would have been real cheesy. That would have been cheesy.
I actually have the Wall on a DVD. It's so funny. I have a Pink Floyd Wall T-shirt, Pink Floyd vinyl, and a fucking Pink Floyd The Wall on like DVD. I'm just like, yeah, I am.
Duke's threatened whenever we do Pink Floyd.
Welcome to my nightmare. I love it.
I mean, Duke's threatened whenever we do Pink Floyd to dress up like the Rogers suit.
Oh, yeah.
No.
People in chat are talking about Eric Clapton. I'll admit I haven't I haven't listened too much to Eric Clapton. I know like some of his hits and of course his work with Cream and stuff like that. Layla, I fucking loved Layla back in middle school.
With Cream and Layla.
Honestly,
he peaked with Cream and Layla.
Beatles too.
That's Derek and the Dominoes, guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that project was.
But I was
like...
also gonna say, sorry if I take it. I might have some hot takes for this, but I made a list of bottom 10 worst artists I've ever seen in concert. Not in regards to performance, but in regards to what he gave us, in regards to the set list. Unfortunately, the time I saw Eric Clapton is one of the most disappointing things I've ever seen. It might make that list.
See, I would believe that. I don't know. I feel like he's a bit of an old codger nowadays. Not just because of, his fucking beliefs,
we got a metal
but just
lover.
like...
Well, no, it's not that. It's just that he literally gave us, like, a 1-hour set, didn't play Sunshine of Your Love, gave us acoustic Layla, which I might turn heads on, but I hate that version, and go on for it.
Yeah.
Ooh, we got a
that's
metal
kind of
lover
the
in
norm
chat,
now, and I
so.
kind of don't really care for encores, but my goodness, I mean, 1 hour for as much as you're charging for tickets, man. Oh, and also, Roger Daltrey from The Who was the opening act. He put on almost as long of a set, did an encore doing Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, and was awesome.
Oh, wow.
You can never go wrong with Mr. Daltrey. That's
God.
Yep.
I wish I could go out there and see The Who, but I'm sure ticket prices for them are fucking expensive now.
Jesus.
I didn't think do that when I went, but of course I might be in a different financial situation than you, Rezi. I don't know.
I also saw the tour he did with Mark Knopfler. Oh, I want to listen to more Dire Straits at some point.
Which by the way,
heard so much.
We won't do that. We will do that by the end of the year. So
Dire Straits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
We're gonna be doing them right before Genesis.
Oh, neat.
So Dire Straits, The Killers, and then Genesis is like,
Duke, we're on YouTube. You can't say The Killers. You gotta say The Unalivers.
No, the TikTok. No, the TikToks.
The died at somebody else's handers.
What?
See, when I covered in my Boston video, when I covered Brad Delp's tragic death, I used the sort of more roundabout euphemism, died by his own hand. Trying to not do the whole Gen Z unalive or commit
and you're
all
also
that
trying
stuff.
to dance around YouTube's algorithmic monetization. But I'll say this: the Unalivers and then Genesis is like, which you will be on it, and which around the holiday season. That's gonna be fun. It's doing.
I mean, we're gonna have to do Genesis and the kid. Oh wait, never mind. I'll schedule it out. I thought we were gonna have to do the Killers and Dire Straits. Record that on the same weekend, but
No.
That's not the case.
With how we structure this, we are good.
Duke.
Yeah.
Soren? Yes.
I said Duke. Why
yes, Soren.
the bleep are you pandering to censorship?
What was that?
What is this?
We're doing Rage Against the Machine around the election weekend before the election. So.
Oh, jeez. When are we doing Aerosmith? Aren't we doing that at the end of the year? I know you said
November.
We're doing it
November.
right after Rage Against the Machine, but before December.
We're,
So we're
like
gonna
right
do,
around Thanksgiving.
Well, since Aerosmith's doing that New Year's Eve show in Boston on their so-called farewell tour, you're gonna do the same thing as we did with Kiss. We should do a special on them. I mean, they're just as, if not more, corporate than Kiss with a shorter catalog.
Man.
16 albums, yeah.
Honestly, that's gonna be. We know it's a good scene. Like halfway through, me and Andrew scream at each other, and then I have to leave halfway through. You know with Aerosmith. So.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Well, I'll find out.
It actually happened between Joe Perry and Steve.
Man,
Joe
the
Perry
song-
and Steven Tyler doing a show.
Man, the song Fearless, I mean, absolutely amazing.
I understand.
I'll say this with Metal by Pink Floyd. That it's such a fantastic album. I argue the
Yeah.
album that like one of these days. I'm a big Pillow of the Winds guy. Like that song is fucking
Echoes all the way.
Metal
Okay.
is probably my dark horse Pink Floyd album. That I think it's like probably their most under. Well, it's either that or Animals for me. Like
Animals is the top 3, no question.
Okay, but the real question is which animal do you love the most? Mine is sheep.
dogs.
Doggies.
Dogs, no question.
Doggies, I got
whales.
my dog over here under a blanket.
Whales and sharks. If anyone wants to know, there's a photo of me I'm gonna send right now. No cage, me with sharks that have been known to bite people. Not frequently, but it's happened before, and they certainly could if they felt like it.
Oh jeez, I actually swam with dolphins before.
Oh my God,
like back
I heard
back in
Amagama.
Mexico.
What's a dolphin gonna do? Oh, you've been to Mexico, Rezi?
Yeah, went down like
part?
like Yucatan Peninsula about.
Oh,
like I went
and the
down
Cancun.
like
I love it.
decade ago.
Where'd you go?
You went to Cancun.
Yeah.
That was like my parents' honeymoon. But still, Metal is such an interesting album where it's like that was like I'll argue Adam Hart Mother's even more underrated. The album before Metal, because that's when I said, okay, this is when I think they were starting to find their groove. Metal solidified what they would become.
There are a few good moments off of Adam Hart Mother. I definitely wouldn't say it's a bad album overall. It's just a bit too overambitious. Like they were still coming off their Amagama whole grind.
Speaking of more, I think more so they were still in that phase when they were like, okay, Sid's out of the band because he's lost it and he's basically non-existent mentally.
Yeah.
So they were trying to find their sound. Amagama's so weird. It's like, I think universally, I think even the band included, do not like the album. For some reason, the band does not like Adam Hart Mother either, which I strongly disagree with.
Yeah.
Because that old son is a beautiful song. The Gilmore Narrow Way.
It is.
I've honestly never listened to all of Amagama. I'm gonna be real. Like, as far as early Floyd goes, I'm mostly
Did it
knowledgeable.
twice and I've forgotten it both times. I can't remember a single note of Amagama.
Except that Roger Waters, one with the really long ass title.
Several species of furry animals that gathered in a cave grooving with a pict. I think.
Yeah.
That is. But
Some avant-garde shit.
Avant-garde. Although all of it, Scared by Clouds. That's the album everyone kind of. It's that forgotten that's sandwiched.
Oh
between
yeah, the
avant-garde.
one.
That should get more appreciation. Like
I like Free 4. That's a neat track.
So who was your first ever favorite band? That's a good question. I mean, everyone had one as a kid, but grew out of it, like the artist. I know who mine was.
I think Metallica.
Either AC/DC or Led Zeppelin, probably.
Probably Pink Floyd.
For me, it was Alice Cooper, believe it or not.
Oh yeah.
So
I met times, but
I can
I
see
would not
the
say he's
appeal.
my-
so funny too.
I mean, again, if you could ever get a chance to meet him, I mean, Meander knows this. I mean, he gives you your undivided attention when you meet the guy, and he'll sign pretty much anything as long as it's not satanic related or sexual.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess I understand.
So funny too. I went from Pink Floyd was in middle school, David Bowie was me in high school. Now I'm just like all over the place after all that, because that's what you do when you grow up. It's like I think the part
Judas Priest and Def
Rising.
Leppard.
I had a pretty big Bowie
that-
phase in college.
Oh, Bowie's phenomenal. Bowie's phenomenal. I mean, that's one band that I like. That should be my favorite band, but they're not. You know.
I'll argue Bowie's everyone's favorite artist because he's done everything that I think everyone's dabbled into. It's
He encompasses so
I
many
hate Let's Dance.
sounds.
I'm sorry, dude, but I hate Let's Dance.
I hate.
I mean, I'm thinking what Bowie would be doing if he were alive today. Bowie would definitely be doing hyperpop.
Oh my
What I
god.
would say is that
Be
my
collabing with
introduction
Charlie
actually
XCX
was
and all
song,
that.
dude, to David Bowie, and what I would say, dude, is
100
that
Gex.
I actually discovered that song from a DDR video game that I had for PS2.
Although
Yeah,
what?
I had the DDR mats and everything on PS2, and I loved that song to play, but now it's like, that's not a very good song to make.
Oh, honestly, that's not even the best song off of Let's Dance. I either flip flop between Modern Love, China Girl, or Ricochet. Ricochet gets underrated a lot. Shout out to
China Girl's not bad. China Girl's not bad.
I
Yeah.
years later was an Iggy Pop. It was a cover of Iggy Pop.
David Bowie's
Iggy
one of
Pop's
those
version
people
is
to
pretty
me-
good though. I love The Idiot. Very underrated rock album.
Yep.
David Bowie's one of those people, like, he's just got one of those unique voices, man, and it's like, you can't get enough.
He's like, I think so funny in general. It's like Bowie's like one of those people that like I never met him. I wish I did in my life, but he's impacted my life that in copious amounts of ways.
Whose name is inspired by the Thin White Duke? Duke.
Speaking of Duke, I have the Genesis album Duke on vinyl, so fantastic album.
Bowie spent kind of the last part of his career emulating Scott Walker. I mean,
He
that
did.
was kind of his career for the entire time. Like he was always kind of chasing after Scott Walker in some way or another.
He did cover
Honestly,
Scott,
yeah.
He did cover a Scott Walker song off of Black Tie White Noise. I think that was
Oh yeah.
Night Flights.
The Electrician.
Right, yeah.
Night Flights of the Electrician.
The Idiot Pop's
Yeah.
narrated by who? Oh, that's by Iggy Pop, by the way. I think I would say one of the quintessential rock albums of the 70s.
Yeah. Definitely, see, it's either that or Lust for Life, his best work post The Stooges, but I don't know. I don't know how to say that with any sort of authority because I haven't really listened to all that much Iggy Pop stuff.
I second that.
No,
Iggy Pop's one of those individuals, like, I probably have not listened to enough for me to say that I'm a fan, but what I have heard, I really like.
or
And I can
It's
video
annoying-
games, particularly Guitar
Or
Hero
senior,
2, for introducing me to what little I know actually about him. So,
Yeah.
you do a song with Alice Cooper too that was really good, I thought.
Are you
I don't
Scott
know.
Walker?
I really
Me,
really
really.
do love what he did in The Stooges, though. That was some fucking
yeah.
great proto-punk
Yeah.
shit.
Mhm.
Again, what I've heard of it, yes.
I
Let me
will
ask you
say.
this.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you familiar with what's called the Mandela Effect, Rezi?
Yeah, that's
any
like
on,
where you
any-
remember one reality and reality it's not, or something like
have
that.
any music? Because I've got a big one. Apparently, I'm not the only one, and I know the origin of it too.
Yeah.
So, we've discussed ELO on the Algorhythms podcast. Are you familiar with them, Rezi?
Oh yeah. Love Yellow.
Are you familiar with also Manfred Mann's Earth Band?
Yeah. Oh, or did you think they did Blinded by the Light?
Yep. And I know exactly where that came from.
Oh my
I know
god.
exactly the origin of it because I actually or my dad did because he thought it was something that was legitimate, but it turned out just to be the Manfred Mann version. But you know something? I mean, the
And LimeWire.
Manfred Mann's Earth Band
Yeah.
logo, it does. And LimeWire, there was another streaming service that did it too, but I was gonna say, I'll tell you what though, I mean, that the way it's structured, the final version in the studio and not the radio hit, or the radio cut, because I know that they cut it short for the radio, the Manfred Mann version, but I'll tell you what, I mean, Manfred Mann's Earth Band and the logo they had, it really, you know, there is something about it that does kind of remind me of ELO, and it could just be the effect that knowing that had on my brain. I mean, it could very well be of a similar artist that made their logo from the time being.
Hey.
And I wouldn't be surprised, honest to goodness, the origin of, like, what, the whole LimeWire thing, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some radio DJs in the 70s and 80s, or whenever that was released, I can't remember which day it was, that said, oh, here's ELO with Blinded by the Light. I mean, I can really picture that. I really can.
Yeah, you know, I would like to see ELO do a version of that, like spruce it up with their usual orchestral arrangements, though. You know, I don't know what ELO's doing nowadays.
We're on a farewell tour this year.
We're going to do the farewell tour before Richard Tandy, unfortunately.
Go to the indie. I've got a ticket to the indie show. You going, Meander?
I'm not sure. Budget.
Saturday.
Shit.
I feel like that's one of the few bands that might mean it. Might. But I would also say this, another Mandela effect I had. Do you ever watch Power Rangers as a kid?
Bits and pieces. Never really much.
Because of my dad, because I guess he saw some kind of resemblance and was never really a big fan of them, he swore up and down that that was Dave Mustaine doing the Go-Go Power Rangers theme song from Mighty Morphin. So I thought that for the longest time.
I couldn't hear it. The shout out to
crazy.
It sounds almost like Dave Mustaine with auto-tune. That's what it sounds like to me.
Shout out to Dave Mustaine though, doing the fucking
head on guitar.
Shout out to Dave Mustaine though, doing fucking Duck Dodgers in the
oh hell yeah
20-something century back. that was a fun episode.
Duck Dodgers
SpongeBob too. That's a real thing. I do think that the Mandela effect is kind of a thing that might be covered up, and we really do remember it correctly. Because again, I mean, Van Halen actually did cover up Van Halen 3, and I tell people, oh yeah, do you know about the third lead singer to Van Halen? I'm like, no. They're all surprised to find out it's very much a real thing.
Yeah. Red Cross.
I think it's also like people's perspective of time and actually remembering stuff is actually, it's like a very interesting phenomenon with Mandela effect. It's based on like how much people can truly remember what they can remember. I mean, the whole reason it's called the Mandela effect was Nelson Mandela was in prison for nearly 30 years for his anti-apartheid protests that people swear to God he died in prison.
Yeah.
Nope.
That
I've seen the X-Files episode, Mandela Effect. It's pretty awesome. Definitely watch that. But yeah.
So, what album do you think would be a great episode for Todd on the show's Train Records? I'm waiting for him to do ELP's Love Beach at some point.
While you guys are talking about that, do you mind if I sneak off real quick to get some water?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, I will be back.
Man, Love Beach is strange.
Yeah.
Because for those who
Love Beach, but you know something, that sounds like, intercourse on the beach and a cocktail you could drink.
Okay, Soren, I'll tell you this. So, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, like I will say, probably one of the most important prog groups who have ever lived. And funny enough, it was a super group. Mainly, I remember. Keith was on the Nice. I think
Keith was from the Nice.
Greg Lake
Palmer was the drummer for Atomic Rooster, and Greg Lake was the singer and bassist for King Crimson.
Mainly on the first album, In Court of the Crimson King. And then technically, in a way, it was a super group. Technically, it's a super group. It became the most popular prog group that I did this Discog run. Funny enough, I did it during Jeff Fatal, but I kind of slacked off. Then I finished Jeff Fatal. Then I had to go back to finish it. If anyone in the chat, if you want the quintessential Emerson, Lake and Palmer listens, I recommend their
Brain salad surgery.
that's not even their best album in my opinion. It's their debut record. I think that's their best record. Like that Brain Salad Surgery, which by the way, it's a euphemism for BJ. If you know, you know. I also recommend Tarkus,
H.R. Geiger doing the album cover.
which by the way, shout out to H.R. Geiger, bro, for spawning many awakenings in people. Tarkus. Tarkus, but Tarkus, I'm more impressed with the artwork of Tarkus at points than the actual songs in it. But I also recommend people listen to the Works of Volume 1, because I would say after that's what happened was by Love Beach, the three members hated each other.
They got sick of each other, especially Lake and Keith, especially Greg and Keith.
This actually dates back to after their first record. Remember, the band almost broke up after their first record. I think it was like Greg Lake actually had to be kind of coerced into coming back with the group. It was all fun and games until they got back. To the point, they went to the record label like, hey, we're done, and they're like, you have one more record to do. They're like, contracts. So they just kind of half-ass a disco album, which.
And I am back. Where's the water? Where's the water?
My opinion on Love Beach is this: it's not the worst album I've listened to. It has some songs I like, but the problem is that when you listen to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, it is so out of place. It's not even funny. It's actually hilarious.
I've never listened to an Emerson, Lake and Palmer album after Brain Salad Surgery, I think.
The only one I highly recommend is the Volume 1 of the Works. Because that's like their
Volume 2.
Just Volume 1. I think Volume 1's their best. Although I do need to get their debut record on vinyl because that's their best album, in my opinion.
How are you going to have a great band if everyone in the band doesn't hate each other?
That is true.
Shout out to Dawkin. Shout out to fucking Dawkin. George Lynch and Don Dawkin fucking hate each other and made some of the best goddamn glam metal of the 80s.
Pink Floyd
don't really get along anymore from the Stones. That's my understanding. I don't know if that's true.
Who and who?
Mick and Keith from the Stones. Rolling Stones. That's my understanding. I don't know how true that is, but much as I love them, that's something I don't know for sure. I saw them in concert, consider myself a fan, have listened to a number, but not all their records. That's what I've heard. Really wouldn't surprise me considering the bad strain between Steven Tyler and Joe Perry.
Yeah.
that is true. I think the best part of being in a band is it's starting out when they just met, like the chemistry's working, but then once the money, the fame, and the power gets into your head, and you want no, I want more money, no, I want to do more of this and that, and then the egos start clashing.
He has a good one. Someone that has a good one. Roger Hodgson and Supertramp.
Or Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen.
Take a look at my girlfriend.
Man.
Although I need to listen to Supertramp. The only album I've actually sat through to was their Breakfast in America album.
Yeah, same. I mean, they also did that one "Give a Little Bit" song that.
Give a little bit.
Yeah.
Give a little bit of my life.
I remember that was going around back in the day for some awareness campaign.
Dennis DeYoung and Styx. I do need to listen to the Styx at some point. So.
Oh yeah. Fucking.
I
listened to a bunch of Styx for my Boston video. I listened to a bunch of.
Ever listen to the Damn Yankees?
No, not really though. I'm probably going to have to.
Ted Nugent. That's Ted Nugent with the Styx.
I mean, to be fair with the Police, it's basically everyone hates Sting, which is fair.
Yeah.
It's like who has the more punchable face of the '80s, Bono or Sting?
or anyone who goes by a one name. I'm sorry, Prince.
Oh my god. Live Supertramp.
That is not a punchable face on Prince.
No, I just people go by one. I just hate artists who go by one name. I'm like,
Hey, I
or
mean,
go by their.
He didn't go by any name in the 90s, so...
I mean that is true. He went by a
Fair
by
enough.
symbol. He went by a symbol. That is true.
That's my symbol. That's my symbol. That's my name. Warner
Oh my
Brothers
God.
don't own my ass.
Sebastian Bach and
Why did that
Skid
Prince
Row.
impression sound like Donald Trump?
Gosh.
Fucking Sebastian Bach. I can't wait to get into talking
God.
about Skid Row for my glam video. They've got an interesting story and career.
Richie
I will
Sambora
say
and the
Lizzie
rest of Bon
Hazel
Jovi.
and,
I think.
Skid Row was probably pretty cool to see, though.
Oh yeah, I
that's-
absolutely. Like it's just so interesting
That
how
makes
there
me
was.
wonder if the guys from Metallica hate each other and they're so corporate they keep it under wraps.
That's probably why
Probably so.
they're in Fortnite now. So which means you could technically kill Lars in Fortnite. So
Wait, hold on.
That is
pulls out a
So,
gun.
so like,
Mr.
if
Napster, bitch!
hang on a second. So they're all in Fortnite Festival, right? But does that
all
mean
four
their
of my
skins?
crew.
Does that mean their skins are also in base Fortnite?
I think
Oh.
so.
Wow.
Never played Spider-Man.
I
I love
don't
that.
know. It
Oh,
would
that-
be fucking hilarious to see like the fucking Lars getting the drop on like Ariana Grande or something like that.
Or the weekend. No, I like one of them said, KK dying in Judas Priest. That is true. That
Oh,
is true,
God.
especially what happened in
yeah.
after the farewell tour. So,
And then you got KK's
I don't
Priest,
remember a
which
Slipknot
oh
that
boy.
quit that's still alive that actually is that way too. I'm trying to think, who's the guy? I think it's Chris Fenn. That's his name.
Who?
Chris Fenn from Slipknot. I think that's another classic example of what we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
I know.
The pointy nose mask, the Pinocchio-looking thing.
Hmm.
The only reason why
Knows.
you know Iowa is in America. So,
There are 12 people that care about Iowa, and 9 of them are from Slipknot.
all four members of Motley Crue. That is true. I think all of them absolutely hate each other. Like,
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
that's certainly the case with Nikki Sixx not caring for the other 3 original members, because apparently, like, he went on a plane straight to Mexico after the not-so-final show on Los Angeles on New Year's Eve 2015. Thank goodness I didn't go to that show as I really wanted to at the time.
Oh my god. I know for a fact that like Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend didn't really
Pete
like
Townsend.
each other for a long while. I don't know if they
That's
still.
no surprise.
I remember hearing that all 4 that the only people in the original lineup of The Who that ever got along with each other were John Entwistle and Keith Moon. Everybody else hated each other until those 2 passed away. Then Roger and Pete started finally getting close as friends.
Well, let's not forget Gene Simmons when Mark St. John said that he didn't care.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
Who's ready for a kiss to go ABBA? So,
Oh.
The virtual kiss models. God help me.
It's gonna
No,
be the
it's-
biggest flop since Music from the Elder, if you ask me. That's what I'm thinking.
no,
Yeah,
no,
Soren is damn convinced they're gonna flop, and Kiss are gonna go back on touring after they flop.
no.
Yeah.
And what I think
Yeah.
is also going to happen is Paul Stanley's going to give up, and they're going to get someone else to replace him, and Gene's going to be the only member on tour that's original at that point.
I don't.
Oh my god.
No, I just imagine.
I mean, you can't say that could not happen.
I just imagine Resi when the Avatar skins come out. It's like the first bit that he just pulls out the fucking Peter Criss makeup. He's like, "Hi."
No,
My
plot
God.
twist. They tie the avatars when they start touring, and when they do, they put Kiss in Fortnite.
Oh my god.
Oh, good God.
See,
that-
I'm surprised that hasn't happened already. I'm surprised that
You know, and
hasn't
I'm
happened
surprised-
already.
And I'm surprised they never made a Kiss Guitar Hero or Rock Band game, honest to goodness. I mean,
Oh,
Eric
good.
Yeah,
That would.
yeah.
Beatles did it. Metallica did it. How did Kiss not get on that? That's
Aerosmith
one
did
of
it
the
too, I think.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Aerosmith did
I
it,
mean,
and I was
Aerosmith
gonna
was
say,
the
How did
first.
Kiss not do it? I mean, that's one of the things that I wonder. The reasons why I say Aerosmith might be a little bit more corporate. And also, Aerosmith actually did sell out to the mouse because they actually still to this day, I think, I don't
Rock and
know
roller
anymore.
coaster.
Yeah, they still
Yeah.
have that there. Kiss never sold out to Disney, and I don't think that's one thing
That's
Simmons
the
would be
thing.
willing to do.
You know, the thing is, at least with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons' case, at least they're honest with like how corporate they are. They're like, we're we're in it for a few couple of dollars. They're entrepreneurs.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I give the whole Avatars like a fucking year tops. Like I feel like that's not an experience that you can like just replicate in VR. The Kiss live concert.
Yeah,
The reason it worked for ABBA was that they decided not to tour after reuniting after a 40-year absence. Kiss have never really gone away.
The thing with ABBA is actually they actually reunited again, and when they were like kind of honored by like the monarchy of Sweden. So which by the way, it took them this long to get knighted. They should have been knighted immediately. So
I gotta say though, I think Ghost are kind of taking their place for that spot about the monarchy of Sweden.
Oh,
They've done more to
Second
raise the
clergy.
profile of Sweden than most other people in its history.
Although,
that
fun
is,
fact, best AHA song, Take On Me, that band's from actually Norway. I didn't realize it.
Oh yeah.
yeah, which although ABBA's so funny where it's like they have this like culture impact that has affected like all generations. Where it's like if you were big in the if you're in the 70s, you love ABBA. If you like watch the Mamma Mia, I think it was a musical on Broadway.
Yeah.
They became like full movies, and now like these, younger fans, and I appreciate. And that's a big part. I appreciate artists who basically said they want to not cater, like they want to grow an audience with this new generation. It's like love it, and they're not saying, "Hey, we want to grow," and you're not gatekeeping like Don Henley of Eagles, who by the way, fuck him. I hate his guts. I never liked him. Anyone here in the Zappa? I know, Meander, you really love Frank Zappa.
I do like Zappa. I do like Zappa.
I need to listen to more Zappa. That's a blind spot of
too.
mine, admittedly.
If you want the king of workaholics, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, not to change the subject, I know that we've discussed video games and brought it up, but who played Star Wars Bounty Hunter when they were a kid?
I did not.
Did not.
I was more of a Battlefront kid.
I love that too.
Like a Star Wars Unite.
I was gonna say it's gonna be remastered for PS4, PS5, and Xbox.
That's
Ooh.
cool. See, I wish they would do more stuff like that for like just go back to like the Battlefront formula that they had before. I know that's kind of at this point they kind of burned that bridge when they went back to using the Battlefront moniker and tied that to fucking monetization and all that shit. But
Yeah.
Come here, Ziggy. Come here.
Is that your
Dog.
dog?
Ziggy is Duke's cat.
oh,
my,
cat.
my angel cat.
I wish I had a furry animal around the apartment, but
Policies.
not one that I had to take care of, you know.
But the
my roommate, one of my roommates, he actually has like a pug that comes around the place every now and then, and it's nice to see. Nice to see him. I guess to ask you guys more about your podcast, you review a lot of artists, obviously. Which has been overall like your favorite, your least favorite, your most contentious between like the three of you or your guests?
If I would have to start with least favorite, out of the stuff we've done, I have a hand. Creed, Van Halen. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Kiss.
you were. Yeah. I mean, Creed is the most middling one we've covered, but other than that, I'm
Scott Stapp gonna be Frank Sinatra in the Reagan biopic.
No,
God.
okay. I need to point that out. I think that's the only reason why some people gave a shit about the Reagan biopic. I thought it's gonna be like it's like the first. I thought it'd be like the first movie to have an only 60-plus-year-old crowd, and then suddenly they approach Scott Stapp. They're like, "You're the lead singer of Creed, right? Yeah. You want to be Frank Sinatra? Take."
Oh my god.
Hi.
I mean, and to be fair, Scott.
didn't speak much lower.
I mean, to be fair, Scott Stapp's had his own like shit going on in the background. You know, obviously he's kind of a few screws loose himself.
I think he's mellowed. I think he's mellowed out too, since like they're doing the divorced dad tour with Three Doors Down and Daughtry. So
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, hey, I got a question. Who believes in aliens? I've had this joke with me in person, so I want to know, do you believe in aliens, Resi?
I mean, sure. The fucking possibility that we're the only intelligent life in the universe is fucking absurd to me.
Well, since we've had the likes of Ronald Reagan and that people actually enjoy people like Creed, I don't like to make fun of people for their taste in music and everything, but I gotta say, if aliens are real and they're more intelligent than us, then I'll be waiting for them with arms wide open.
Oh my gosh.
But
What's this podcast called? These guys are the Algorhythms. You can look them up on Spotify. Are you guys on YouTube at all? Do you upload episodes?
We are
to
not.
YouTube?
No, we are not.
We're working on it.
Oh, okay.
Give us 5 years.
Now, as for mine, because I was not in on the Creed one because I was in Japan on a vacation, and they definitely let me sit that one out. For me, I would say my favorite, just because I had a long obsession with them, and they were the second episode we did, which was slightly better than the first, and it was a hand-picked of mine. It was Van Halen, just because a bit of a history with them in regards to being personal, dealing with the very cult-like fan base that Van Halen can have amongst the controversy between three lead singers, as well as the fact that I've seen Sammy Hagar as a solo act do a lot of the Van Hagar stuff he did, and Van Halen with David Lee Roth in concert. And
they're like the Marillion.
Special for me. That one's definitely special for me.
I fucking love Marillion.
But for my least favorite, I might turn some heads on this.
Controversy.
So my two least favorites, if I had to pick two that we've done.
I've tried to get on Apple Podcast.
My two least favorites, I personally think, I'm sorry if I turn some heads on this one, and it's not that I didn't like one of them, it's just that it's not really within my clique to, for lack of better words, click with it as well as maybe you guys did and Para did, but I mean, I liked a lot of what A Tribe Called Quest did, and I certainly said a lot of positive things about it, but
Yes.
it just didn't click as well with me as it did with you guys.
Yeah.
That's just outside of my knowledge. I also, I mean, just
Coldplay.
because of how bad the last three albums Coldplay have released, in my opinion, and you're gonna
No, speaking of...
that would go on the list of least. That would definitely go on the list of like bottom tier artists that we've ever done.
If what
Gosh,
Van Halen,
that's
speaking
yes.
of Coldplay.
Van Halen.
Yeah, the new single. Jesus Christ.
Most contentious. That's an interesting word you said, Resi, but I think most
Or
contentious...
controversial, or yeah, I don't know, like whatever you guys
but
like,
just-
argue over the most.
Flame War. Flame
For
War.
me, just because of... Hold on a second, Duke. Because of how good he is, I feel like most contentious might just be Otis Redding, because he's just so good that it's hard to say that, you know, you have a least favorite from one when it's still just that good.
I see,
My-
yeah.
Or
My
Kiss.
favorite.
Or Kiss, just because, I mean, we all had drastic different opinions on what was our favorite, what was our least favorite. I mean, even, Rezi, you said more positive things about Carnival of Souls than the other people, including myself and Meander and Duke and Alan.
Yeah.
You said positive things, and the rest of us said we didn't care for Carnival of Souls, and then Alan said his favorite is Hotter Than Hell, and I think that album still to this day is a little overrated. I've tried like listening to a lot of Kiss ever since we've done that episode.
Yeah.
Say Destroyer's overrated, and to an extent maybe it is, but I still say it's the best thing they ever put out and probably will be. But I also said that, you know what, I kind of think Revenge is kind of... It might be the worst album Bob Ezrin ever did. Sorry.
That's fair. I mean,
I think contentious for me and Duke. Me and Duke were at each other's throats during Tears for Fears, certainly. Or we like playing that up.
And you know what? I clicked well with Tears for Fears, but it's the same Otis Redding effect. It's like a lot of that is just so freaking good. Maybe not as good as Otis Redding, but freaking amazing.
If we're talking,
that was me with Steely Dan. Me with Steely Dan and Peter Gabriel.
Oh man,
that was.
Peter, that was I can't get at anyone's throat just the way that, because I had the same mentality as Alan, but you know what, I could see how that goes.
Actually, that contentious, I will probably say it was Tears for Fears. The favorite episodes we've done, based on I think both in terms of the artist. What was that?
The camaraderie when we record. I think my favorite we've done is either Judas Priest or Jethro Tull.
I think in terms of chemistry, I would say Peter Gabriel, Peter Gabriel, Tribe Called Quest. Say what you want. I really love that because I was showing the chemistry like that. That's the beauty of doing more and more of these episodes. Like you see your chemistry just bonding. I will also say the Jethro Tull.
I think we get better each episode in some respects.
I mean, if you guys start from like a position of not having any chemistry, obviously you're only bound to go up like every time.
Exactly.
It takes practice.
We need that like the cliff moment. That'll be coming soon. I don't know when, but Judas Priest was fun too, though.
Yeah, no, the Priest episodes are gonna bang. Everybody in my crowd, go look these guys up and sub to them because those episodes are gonna be great.
Yes, I
uploaded the Prelude episode today because, well, in metal, what would be more fitting than uploading than Judas Priest in Pride Month? Even if it's the last day.
At the end of Pride Month, bro, you were like, you slept. It's like, wake up.
Rob Halford, our gay elder.
Ready.
Our
gay Santa Claus of heavy metal.
Gay Santa Claus.
I
would call him the gay metal lord who loves to shit post on Instagram. So.
God, that's horrible.
No, he does shit post on Instagram. It's like
I love seeing him like with like posing with like little kittens and all that stuff.
Yeah, Rob Halford I think has achieved the greatest form as like in his 70s. He says he's already like the metal god. He's gay. He's just gonna say, I'm just gonna spend the rest of the days posting cat videos with Judas Priest. It's like, you know, what can go wrong?
But I don't see how they managed to find the likes of Ripper Owens in regards to personality. In regards to voice, it makes a lot of sense, but personality, it's like two couldn't be two more contrary.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait till you actually listen to it. I got some Ripper Owens. But I think Jethro Tull was also fun too. I think it's because, well, besides it was a long episode. I think longer.
Yeah.
It felt
23 albums,
which didn't feel long. I mean, we basically had the same bottom album, Under Craps, so
it's Under Wraps, but the album's title is Under Wraps, but it's so bad we call it Under Craps.
I started calling it Under Craps. You just you adopted. I was like,
to give you an idea of how much I hate that album, I think Duke, you were the only one that didn't rage quit the album. You or me.
Yes, I gave
it a 0 out of 10, the same score I gave Dark Side of the Moon Redux.
Oh yeah.
We did. No, Redux was a horrible list. I was like, me and Meander were like, screw it, we'll listen to this. No, I've never. You ever have an? I want to ask y'all. You ever
Yeah.
had an album
I had to
so?
go back and listen to the original to wash the taste
I did that
of that
too.
out of my
But
mouth.
it's like, you ever had an album that's so bad it's so boring you nearly fall asleep listening to it? I did it.
Close.
Me with Everyday Life by Coldplay too.
I think Duke actually had that with. I think Soren had that with Under Wraps.
Twice.
Don't know.
Twice.
Maybe one of the latter day Boston albums. Like those are just kind of there.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. There's like people. What puts you to sleep with
I
an
heard you
album?
say my name, Meander. What was that?
It was like when you fell asleep to Under Wraps twice.
Oh yeah, I
That-
sure did. And I also fell asleep to the last 3 Coldplay albums and Carnival of Souls.
The fact that the Carnival Souls is the only album I actually rage quit to is actually interesting. Because I'm the believer of, I'm the philosophy of, no matter how bad the album is, I'm going to listen to it from front to back.
Usually,
Even though
I am usually that.
I nearly rage quit to Demolition by Judas Priest because I nearly quit halfway through because I was just like, I've already heard the best. What am I doing here?
Carnival of Souls, I have the same mentality as Alan Tate, who was on our show. And by the way, make sure whoever's watching this stream, listen to the Ages of Rock podcast and Big Al's Rockin' podcast. He talks a lot about Kiss and has had some people with strong ties to Kiss, including a person heavily involved with the 80s Asylum album. But I've kind of developed a bit of a better attitude in regards to Carnival of Souls to you, Duke. Because I actually now kind of think that if it had been a lot shorter, I Walk Alone would have been a pretty great song. No doubt that Bruce Kulick is a pretty phenomenal singer.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a little too long. I think the part with Gene in it, it's not bad, but it's just not necessary.
Yeah.
And I also am kind of having a bit of a more appreciation for Childhood's End, and I don't know why that is. But Bruce Kulick, that's another element. I mean, I feel like I should have mentioned this on the Kiss episode that we did. What's so underrated about Kiss? I'm like, I tell you, Bruce Kulick.
He was an underrated workhorse for that band for sure.
And just as underutilized as Eric Carr was.
Oh
God,
yeah.
Eric Carr. God bless Eric Carr. So.
Yep.
Man.
God bless it if you do that second Kiss series and it starts with the death of Eric Carr.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
Nate and I are concert buddies. He and I have seen, I mean, much like Meander, if we don't attend a concert together, we're both typically mutually in attendance.
See, I think of
but I
Carnival of
actually-
Souls as an Alice in Chains
In
album.
Chains.
Interesting.
That's disrespectful to Alice in Chains, unironically.
That's
So.
fair. I will say again, another band, and Meander saw them. I don't know if I ever got your opinion on them when we saw them, Meander, but was not impressed when we saw Alice in Chains at Louder Than Life.
It
Well,
was
I
at
mean,
the
like-
original
I looked
show.
I looked up other dates that shows. I looked up some footage from other dates of that same tour, and I just think there were. I just think the lead singer had an off night at Louder Than Life since he sounded better on some other dates of that tour.
My issue with that was that my biggest issue wasn't the band or even the singer's voice, but they were obviously using Lane Staley backing tracks, and the dude sounds nothing like him. So just looking, yeah, they were using Lane. It sounded like to me like they were using Lane Staley backing tracks at Louder Than Life, and the dude, in my opinion, that they have right now, I can't think of his name. He didn't sound anything
William
like
Duvall.
Lane Staley. So you shouldn't use Lane Staley backing tracks.
Yeah.
I wonder if that Lane Staley backing track choice was on the part of the band or the organizers of Louder Than Life, and the band just went along with it.
I hope not, because here's the thing: is that's such a well-respected festival organization. You would think not, because it's one of the things I liked about DWP is they kind of let the bands do their own thing for the most part.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I'll to be fair, Alice in Chains, like it's not the same without Lane Stanley. It's like
I mean, they've shifted their sound considerably over the past few albums, haven't they? They're leaning, considerably more into doom and sludge than explicitly grunge at this point.
very interesting too with like the genres. Like we actually talked about that with like people that hear about it. It's like grunge. Like grunge is interesting, where it's like you can like pinpoint the exact moment it died when Kurt Cobain, died. So from his own
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
hands,
know. I mean,
from your own
still,
hands.
Pearl Jam, I mean, are pretty massive, and I think that Soundgarden, up until the day Chris Cornell passed away, I mean, that was pretty big too.
Oh yeah.
It was. I mean, to be fair with Pearl Jam, they became like your dad's favorite band. Like, well, not your dad, just like the younger generation, like millennial
like
dad's
dad rock.
I would like
Yeah.
Dad rock.
And I will also say, and I would say this too, Alan Tate almost saw Soundgarden, but that was the same week that Chris Cornell unfortunately killed himself.
Oh no.
That happened to my dad. He was about to go see Led Zeppelin at the Richfield Coliseum in Ohio, but that happened around time John Bonham died, so they had to
Man.
cancel the tour. It was
Unfortunate situations.
it's
man.
it's so funny. It's actually funny too when
Yeah.
you do the post grunge scene. It's like it's so funny too, like where the bands that started in post grunge. You look at them now. It's like so interesting. You had Creed, Three Doors Down, Daughtry, Shinedown, my favorite band, Breaking Benjamins, Linkin Park, like, and you look at them where they are now. It's like
Shinedown's still pretty big. I think you're kind of underestimating how big they are. I mean, I was never a big fan of their material, but I've seen them.
Who cares a
once-
Shinedown fan? So yeah.
No.
Oh, you are?
yeah.
I was gonna say,
oh,
I am pretty
oh no, they
impressed
are
with the
big. I know.
I was gonna say, at a festival, they were headlining over Judas Priest, so that's pretty telling.
Wow.
I mean, they're not really post grunge anymore. I call them like modern rock. They're like
Yeah.
arena rock, But I still.
they might be a little too late in the time to be considered post grunge, because I just remember, the number one hit song that they released. That was way after
Yeah.
grunge. I think grunge was well out the door at that
I
point.
meant-
yeah.
That's why I remember they started as post grunge, and then once Sound of Madness came around, they changed the sound to be more hard rock.
Hmm.
That
Here's
time.
a funny story. So we talk about how grunge killed itself. I would say pretty much the only grunge band that ever lived, beyond the 90s is Pearl Jam at this point. I mean, there are others, but
Well,
there's none that
yeah.
are probably near.
Yeah, I mean, they changed
I
their
would say
sound to
this,
be
the
dad rock.
funniest thing, I told my mom this a few days after Chris Cornell died, is that, well, she says, my dad says otherwise, but my mom and dad actually saw Pearl Jam in concert in Louisville before they actually hit their prime. And my mom says it was one of the worst concerts that they'd ever seen, because that Eddie Vedder was very drunk and pretty much crowd surfed the entire time.
Isn't that the average? Isn't that the average Eddie Vedder like experience in the '90s, where it's like you couldn't understand them, he's just doing all this crazy stuff. And you're just like, wait a minute.
Then I told her this, I told her this, like, considering that, look at what happened to the lead singer of Alice in Chains, Kurt Cobain, and then recently Chris Cornell, and what you had saw out of that Pearl Jam concert, I bet you'd never guess that he'd be the one that came out alive.
Yeah.
And no kidding.
Although with Chris Cornell, I do.
Said otherwise, though. My dad said otherwise, and this was at a venue, he said, called the Louisville Gardens, which is still up and running, believe it or not. It doesn't do anything. It's there, though.
Oh,
Gotta
yeah.
look it up, me. But they had 3 arenas in Louisville, Kentucky, and that was the original, maybe not the original, but one of the oldest ones that goes back decades. And it's about half the size of what Roberts Stadium was, Meander.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
See, I don't think grunge is boring so much as it is. Like, if it's done poorly, it ends up just being really
it's
dour
also,
and bleak.
I think
Oh,
it's
hot
also-
take. That's one of the reasons why, I don't know if you would consider them grunge, but they certainly fit during that era. I'm not as big of a Tool. I like some of their stuff.
Tool?
Like, what I've listened to that I do like, again, Tool is a very niche band in my opinion. They're talented, they're good. Same thing with Pucifer and A Perfect Circle, but I can't say that I'm bored with everything they do, but what I have listened to that I do like, I really like.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Tool fan too.
I have a
No,
I,
I'm not
I,
a big Tool fan.
I have a hammer. Yeah, it's like like there's like it's not like prog prog never really died. It's just because of it was so commercialized and there were so many bands doing prog, and also the culture that punk came in. It like it went from big to like a niche thing, which you still get some prog bands now, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah,
In my opinion, though, there's a lot of bands that are very popular, and because of what makes them so popular, that would not exactly fit the description of prog. I feel like people don't realize them as a prog band. Like Iron Maiden, I think, is the perfect example of that. I consider Iron Maiden, at least from Number of the Beast onward, to be a prog band, but I don't know if they consider themselves one. But they're definitely influenced by that genre, and no question, I mean, especially the fact that, you know, one of their songs is almost 20 minutes long, their longest one, and it tells an epic tale of proportions, and so do pretty much all of their songs. To say that there's no progressive element to a lot of their stuff when you start from the Number of the Beast onward, honestly, even before that, Phantom of the Opera comes to mind with that.
Yeah,
to say that... Same thing with Judas Priest, in my opinion. I think Judas Priest, maybe not the same way as Iron Maiden does, but that's one of the reasons why I dislike when people say, well, who do you think is better? It's like, if you really dig deep in their catalog, it's just not as comparable as you would want to say.
Progressive rock has always had like a symbiotic or codependent relationship with heavy metal. Like fucking Rick Wakeman played on Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
Oh yeah, I mean, no kidding. Here's another thing too, is that I think in some way, shape, or form, even groups that don't consider themselves, they chase the trend. I mean, Alice Cooper even said that Halo of Flies, that song, which by the way, they made a really epic proportion of the live show in the 2010s, like 2007, 2018, which you saw in concert, Meander. He even said he was kind of chasing on his radio show, he was chasing the prog trend, and I think with the live show in 2017
I think he specifically said he was chasing something like In the Core of the Crimson King.
I mean,
right.
you can thank the Rolling Stones for that.
I certainly think everyone's done that. And again, I think he nailed it in the live show 2017, 2018 with the drum solo.
It's like...
I would definitely recommend any person who likes Alice Cooper or is just interested in seeing some real raw musicianship. Man, watch. Meander saw it, and that very same night I had Alice Cooper. I went backstage and had Alice Cooper sign my copy of Killers. From that,
nice.
Oh my gosh.
Prog is an interesting genre where, like, I think in its essence, it's basically jazz. It's basically jazz. It's jazz fusion in its core, where like you're doing all of this. And I did say you could thank Rolling Stones for King Crimson, because
well, it's partly jazz, but it's a lot of classical influence too.
Yeah,
right?
like
here's another thing. I think thrash. I think that can have a symbiotic relationship. Because here's my opinion. Who's listening to? You ever listen to Blind Guardian? That's a band I think is highly underrated. We discussed them on our podcast. They do a lot of the particularly with the rhythm guitar parts, the open strings, some hammer-ons and pull-offs and power chords to make it sound like you're shredding up a storm, which you are, but not the way you would be like some real classical scales on lead guitar. But to me, that is exactly what I mean by a symbiotic relationship between thrash metal and progressive.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think also in my opinion, so like, really is the difference between progressive and power metal, as they call it for Blind Guardian and Symphony X. I'd say it really is not one. I think though, I mean, here's another thing. I mean, if like Muse's backstory, they too themselves, and I think in some ways they are, particularly on their new album and a particular song called Verona. People have even said Muse are progressive, and I think that can show capable of it. I mean, on the Drones album, you have The Globalists, which is 13 minutes long.
And they definitely have their progressive moments. Like, going back to Origin of Symmetry, like, that's a very...
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like...
I agree with that. And here's the thing. I do think this. Muse are probably the best band that came out of the 2000s decade, because I think that even though they pretty much ignore showbiz that came out in 1999, which I hated when artists do that, but I would say pretty much it's too late to say they came from the 90s at that point.
I will say Muse's 2000s were great. everything after that.
I don't agree with. I do not agree with that. I actually think they're one of the
Soren,
bands
don't you love
that
the
is-
you love the NFT album?
I've never.
I don't know.
I
I
actually
feel.
think they're a band
They
that,
tried to
for the
release
most
Will the
part,
People as an NFT.
I
God.
think Muse is a band that I think has actually gotten better, in my opinion.
Because going back, you also look at it's like I said this during when we were pre-gaming Judas Priest when Castos, yes, and I could say the fourth member, like the fifth Beatle.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about Rush. I don't call Rush a prog band. I mean, yes, their best stuff is from when they were prog, 2112, all the way to Hemispheres, but also, I mean, you also have Permanent Waves and fucking Moving Pictures, which is more new wave synth pop.
The Beatles. You say the Beatles, dude. To be honest with you, like Eleanor Rigby sounds to me like, I know the time being this was not the norm, but even at 2.5 minutes long, I'm sure there is an extended version, but
No, there's not.
man, no, oh, really?
Yes.
Somebody needs to get on that. I mean, Alice Cooper.
The song's meant to be. What I mean is the fifth Beatle, like there's that debate on who was the, like the supporting, like Pete Best, George Martin, Billy Preston. Rush in its essence is a rock band. When they started out, they were more influenced by the hard rock genre, mainly Cream, and I jokingly call them the first album Canadian Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
You can say that about Eddie Lee's vocal performance. It sounds like he's Robert Plant, which is probably why my mom can't stand Rush. It's like,
But I would say again, I mean, even Led Zeppelin, you could see some early prog in that. But I would also say, I mean, the Beatles. I mean, Eleanor Rigby. I mean, that to me sounds like, I mean, Alice Cooper, I'm looking at you because you did that really killer version of that song on the Paul McCartney tribute album. But I just feel like somebody needs to get on that song, make a cover, write some new lyrics to continue the storyline that goes along with it, and make it like an epic 6.5 minute progressive song. You've got something going for you. So to tell me that,
I mean, with Beatles and prog, that you got the Abbey Road medley, you got A Day in the Life.
Yeah.
you basically have Sgt. Pepper.
I mean, that was like one of the first big concept albums, other than like what the Kids were doing, maybe.
There's something.
Now I'm playing games with my neighborhood. What is that? A firework or a gunshot?
Oh boy.
I mean, you look at a band like
That time of year.
I mean, you also look at bands you didn't know started rock. I'll give you an example. Journey. Now everyone knows they're hard rock 80s days. They started out as like a San Francisco-based jazz prog fusion band. Like
Lights.
Just two of the members were ex-Santana members.
Yeah.
And also their first drummer with Bowie on Diamond Dogs and basically was Zappa's drummer.
Yeah.
Forgot his name for a moment.
Ainsley
Journey.
Dunbar.
It's like you listen to like Journey's first 3 albums, and it's like, and then you immediately go to Infinity, Evolution, Escape. So
And
it's
they adopted the Boston formula.
Yeah. They basically, it's a very interesting, like it's like I would say anyone in the chat, I say everyone to us, go listen to like any like Journey's first album, which is very jazz prog influence, and then go to something like Infinity, like Any Way You Want It, A Little While, or like their Steve Perry hits, and you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
It's like, it's very
They sold out. They
interesting.
went corporate, just like all other major artists.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
at least they're
right.
basically a tribute band, because I think
At this point,
I
yeah.
actually know something that is actually very progressive, and I just mentioned this earlier, but on the retroactive, well, they call it a compilation, but I say it's actually an album in itself. The first 2 songs, much like a lot of what Queen did. Now, I mean, a lot of the early Queen stuff, that's progressive to the T. Not just
especially Queen 2.
Queen 2, especially.
But the first 2 songs on Def Leppard's retroactive compilation that I say is actually a legitimate album, the Desert Song and Fractured Love, they go into each other the same way that a lot of Queen stuff did on the early stuff.
I
reckon as if they could do one song, and those 2 songs probably almost amount to about a total of 8.5 to 9 minutes, give or take.
It's
Oh, yeah.
Symphony 2
And again,
Queen
it's a
2.
pretty epic tune. Pretty epic tune.
With Queen 2, I told Neander this. I've wholly opinion. I think March of the Black Queen is like it's more impressive on a technical feat than Bohemian Rhapsody was.
It is.
It is more tech because of the tape. People always attribute the story to Bohemian Rhapsody when I swear to God it's March of the Black Queen. We're like, there's so many vocal layers to March of the Black Queen that like the tape, like they used it so much, the tape just became clear as fuck. It's like,
Yeah.
Story. I've heard that story in both songs, but that makes me wonder, what the fuck with the tape? Is the tape also clear for something like the Prophet song?
people of the earth, listen to the warning.
Who
I love
knows,
that.
man.
Listen to the madness.
I mean, you look at Bowie, but I guess Bowie did dabble into the prog scene, especially I argue with Ziggy Stardust. Ziggy Stardust, I would say that was with glam prog. But
Argue
Ziggy
Station and his Berlin trilogy were his prog days.
Station to Station is the best album of all time, in my opinion. It's like when you're so dabbled into like Aleister Crowley, the occult, and ancient Kabbalahs for Madonna and Alex
Cocaine.
Pepper's Milk and Cocaine, bro, and the Man Fell to Earth, bro. That's good shit.
You may say it's not the side effects of the cocaine, but I'm pretty sure it is the side effects of the cocaine.
It is.
I think
totally
that
is.
it must be love.
Yeah. You guys fans of German/French
telling-
prog? I don't know too much about
I
French or
did
German
dabble. I've dabbled into I
know
showed you.
Can.
I've dabbled
One
with
of
some
the-
Italian
That
prog.
is a great album.
Gojira is in a way progressive, and again, it's just like progressive music is everywhere. I mean, there's progressive rap, and I'm not even familiar with the rap genre,
Right.
but I know that's a thing. But I think that, honest to goodness, the best example of progressive death metal is Gojira, and to a certain extent,
me.
we saw it Louder Than Life, and I actually listened to a little bit after them. I think they're kind of going for it. They don't quite have it yet. Orbit Culture and Meshuggah. And Meshuggah probably has it down.
I did dabble into some. I have a couple of
I've had it
Italian
down for
prog
years.
Italian prog songs on my playlist. I did. I showed Meander that German prog metal band. That album. The name. Actually, I'm gonna go pull it up. The name's slipping me. It's the Art of Navigating by the Stars by Six Even. So Six Even.
Siege is even.
I highly please listen to Enchant's debut album, Blueprint of the World. That is like good shit right there.
It's
Just,
not rock.
I see.
You love how much do you love Merlin and Meander? Like
A
what
lot.
would you say it's your favorite prog group
We
of all
can probably
time?
go toe to toe on who is the most emotional laden prog guitarist, Steve Rothery versus David Gilmour, because closer than you think.
Here's the thing. Even if we even do Merlin, we have that debate, bro. I'm like, I am sorry, the bias is still with me, bro. Like you can't you can't take David Gilmour away from me. That's
I don't plan on it, motherfucker.
I admittedly
I
have
tried
never listened to that much Marillion. I've gotten requests in the past to cover them, but I don't know too
I only
much
know-
about them.
I only know childhood.
They have a
Jess-
long history, and their lead singer history is just as fractured as Van Halen's.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
that's what I said. As I said, they're the metal equivalent to Van Halen when it turns to flame wars and controversy on who was the better singer, Fish or Steve Hogarth. So
Steve Hogarth.
Hogarth, sorry.
And there's two Steves in that band. Steve Hogarth on vocals, Steve Rothery on guitar.
Yeah, they should have called
Who is
themselves.
such an underrated guitar player.
So, Rezi, I know you're not a big concert goer, so I was going to say, I mean, all the artists we've discussed and everything, because I know you said you never got to see Kiss in concert, but I think the opportunity will come back in some form. And I know you just missed Judas Priest's last tour. I'm surprised they didn't add any more in the near area, but I mean, who have you seen in concert if you have?
I've seen
Bruh.
Yes, King Crimson. I think Peter Frampton opened for Yes, actually, as well as Asia. So I saw those guys too.
Ooh, Asia.
There was Back in, what was it, '09, I saw Metallica at Madison Square Garden. I think they had like
Hell
fucking
yeah.
Volbeat and Lamb of God opening. That was a killer bill.
What was it?
Heck yeah.
It was one of those. It was during one of Billy Joel's off days. So
I saw, I saw, what was it? Weezer. They did the show at the Trocadero Theater in Philadelphia, like during the like launch of Everything Will Be All Right in the End. You know, back in the days when we actually thought Weezer would be good again.
that was a lot. Weezer was never good. I'm sorry. Oh God.
The only song I'm really familiar with because of Guitar Hero 3, and I don't like the song, is My Name Is Jonas.
My Name is Jonas.
Yeah.
Although,
I mean, again, I stand by what I said. With 2000s, I think the weakest is the weakest decade for rock and roll, in my opinion. And I think Weezer, for the most part, to me, in that particular song, is exactly what I mean, among other stuff. And again, to me, the only band that I think could have made well in the 2000s that they call, I've always had a disdain for. We discussed it on our Algorhythms podcast, and I'm sorry if there's any people listening to me, but I've always kind of had a disdain for like the 2000s, like I guess Meander called it the post-emo scene, with the bands like Weezer was kind of getting on that. My least favorite band, here's a real hot take. I'm sorry, I know a lot of girls like this band and everything, but My Chemical Romance is by far my least favorite band of all time.
It's okay. I don't
And
really
there's
have
other-
much crossover with the female audience, so you're fine.
I don't have any opinions on My Chemical. I don't have any opinions on that. My Chemical
Is
Romance.
that, I mean, the only band that I think would perhaps say that I liked out of it, well, there's two. Green Day, but again, they were getting kind of big before that point, and American Idiot was just kind of what made them the most corporate they could get, but also Muse, but even they don't like the association of that very much, and that's kind of why they drifted away from the Radiohead sound, because they were getting mixed into that crowd. And I honestly think they are doing that for the better, in my opinion. For the most part, I'm not saying that there's not good stuff from early Muse, but my least favorite Muse album is actually the debut, Showbiz.
Well, I mean, that's...
It's mostly because of production, and again, I have a similar feeling about that as I do Coldplay's debut. It's like, you can tell there's real talent in there, and if I were a record label, I'd pick them, but it seems like they're kind of in search of good material. They finally pick up on it with the second, but once they get to Absolution, that's when things really pick up steam.
Honestly, Muse and Coldplay, it's funny they debuted right around the same time. I feel like they just sort of developed by butting off of fucking Radiohead.
Yeah.
I feel
like
bad with Coldplay, and I was going to say, I think Coldplay, because again, Muse's debut album came out in 1999. Coldplay was a little bit later than that.
I mean,
no, they were in
2000.
2000s.
Yeah, they still started around the like.
And
the
they had
late
like an
90s
EP out in like 98, 99. So
two or three EPs from like pre-Parachute days. So
yeah, they were roughly contemporaries.
yeah, just
Again, I never listened to those EPs, but I never would have guessed Coldplay would have tried to be like Radiohead.
Yeah.
Now with Muse, I can
I mean-
kind of see it, and I think that's one of the reasons, again, for two reasons. One, I think they didn't really want to be considered a knockoff band that you would say about, like, I like them, but Greta Van Fleet's a bit of a knockoff band for Led Zeppelin. Same thing with Airborne for AC/DC. And I think Matt Bellamy is just too talented and way too original for that, to want to do that. And number two, again, like I said, they were kind of at the time where they were in the trend with the whole emo thing. My understanding, they really didn't like that association very much. I don't know how true that is, but that would be my guess. And again, I think they're way too talented for my liking in regards to the whole emo scene from the 2000s. I mean, from the beginning, Meander can say this, and we've discussed this on the Algorhythms podcast. I've always kind of had a disdain for it because I associate it with the subculture that came along with it. I think you hit the nail on the head. I could never realize what it was, but it's the subculture that comes along with it, sort of like what post-grunge created. And one of the things that came with that subculture, and I think it's actually a much more serious issue, and they made it kind of a trendy thing that they were trying to make out to be cool, but it really wasn't, was the whole slit your wrist because you're depressed kind of thing, because that's cool right now and it's a trend. I hated that because there, you know, I listen to really angry music and sometimes depressing music, but to me, that's just entertainment. It's just for your enjoyment, and maybe it's for some expression, but I don't like the concept of you should hurt yourself on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's also too whiny for my liking. It has a huge lack of testosterone for my liking.
I will say I don't know how many bands directly advocated for that message, but I don't listen to
I wouldn't say
that
that
many bands.
any of them directly did. None of them directly did.
It was more the
It's
subculture, I think.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's the subculture that followed the trend. I mean, you want to watch Mad TV. That was a thing for a long time. I don't know if it still is or not. Mad TV's skit called Tickle Me Emo. Oh my gosh. Like, but I used to make fun of people like who were big onto that trend that showed it. And I have no mercy in that regards, because now a lot of people who were part of that, they say, boy, you were right from the beginning, number one. And number two, I mean, that to me is exactly what that was going on. And I was like, how does anyone think that being like the Tickle Me Emo doll is cool? I mean, oh my god.
That's the part of being a teenager. That's the that's the your edgy phase. You want to say hey, it's
I
the
didn't
edgy
see that
bit.
as edgy though, and I think when I think of edgy, to me, I think of something with testosterone, and I saw that. I mean, in my opinion, like even the likes of Bryan Adams, who sings sappy love songs, have much more testosterone and is much more edgy than the likes of My Chemical Romance and Weezer and Fall Out Boy. It's because, again, it's trying way too hard, and honestly, it's making yourself look like a big pipsqueak in the process, in my opinion. I mean, I know that this makes sound like, that sounds like, you know, but to me, it's like, if you're gonna be edgy, you need to look like a tough guy, and to me, it's like, you had that, you know, style going on. To me, you look like the kind of guy who's gonna run and hide from a bully and not stand up to one, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might be sounding like an asshole here, and again,
I don't know.
I mean, that mentality really anymore, but I remember that mentality when I was that age. And here's the thing, I actually recently listened to, they're still my least favorite band ever, but their cover of Desolation Row, My Chemical Romance for the Watchmen soundtrack, pretty solid actually.
Yeah. I
feel like it's as though they're ripping out the Sex Pistols with it, though.
I will say, as far as any opinions I have from My Chemical Romance, I like a few tracks of the Black Parade, but I don't really feel anything too strongly towards them.
And that's one of those things, is like, that was supposed to be a concept album, apparently. Like, that's not a very coherent one, and it's also not a good album, in my opinion, period.
Do you like The Cure, Duran Duran? My mom loves The Cure.
That's what I was going to say, is that I think it is hypocritical, because I do quite like The Cure, who, in my opinion, that's like the original, maybe not the original emo band, but that to me is the band that also created the Post, even though it was many decades later. That's another thing, is like, is it just me, or do these people really just want to rip off The Cure as much as they could? You know what I'm saying?
I did do a Duran Duran Discog run like a week or two ago.
The Cure is a band that I would really like to see in concert. Here's another issue, is that The Cure, you could say what you want about the message and say that it has a similar subculture to a certain extent. I do think it's a little bit different because they came from a different era, but the musicianship is solid from The Cure, no question about it. I mean, my dad actually saw a concert, so he says, with The Cure, but it's got Robert Plant on lead vocals and Jimmy Page on guitar. Man, how fucking cool is that? You know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, if I were Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, I'd want nothing to do with what came out of the 2000s for the most part.
I mean, I'll say I did do it's so funny too. What was it? We talked about like how that one Duran Duran song, like the internet like gaslit it thinking it was part of Metal Gear Invisible. It was like, this is from Metal Gear Solid 5, and it's like, it's supposed to Metal Gear Solid 5.
Clear, again, I know that I'm sounding like an asshole and like I still do, but I don't really hold that opinion the way I used to, but that's just what I saw as a young man. And also, this is embarrassing to admit because this is not who me or Meander are, but this was a point in time where Megadeth was easily top 5 favorite bands, and in a way they still are, because again, that is the reason I ever picked up a guitar in the first place, was because of Megadeth. You believe that Dave Mustaine and his music truly did brainwash me into making the guitar player that I am today, because it's literally the only thing I think about on a day-to-day basis is when am I going to play guitar. But you were also tricked by Dave Mustaine into thinking that Alex Jones was an accurate source of information.
No.
Oh no!
Yeah.
And
real quick.
I was watching a lot of that stuff during that era. It was right when they released the In-Game album, and if you don't know, the title track to that album is based off of an Alex Jones conspiracy theory that is actually of an anti-vaccine disinformation campaign.
Well, we're glad to have you here with us now, away from all of that.
No kidding.
Thank God.
Kidding.
I mean,
I mean, the mentality and the mood that I was constantly in during that time.
I was in that phase. I was a teenager. I mean, when you're a teenager, you're just kind of like, you want to be in that.
Duke, didn't you have a Joe Rogan phase, Duke?
What was that? What was that?
Didn't you have a Joe Rogan phase, Duke?
No, I never watched Joe Rogan. That's the thing.
Although you're awfully young for that, and I was gonna say
I'm
again,
20. I'm 23, and I'm 23, and everyone else is like almost 30. So, well, Meander's sorry. I don't know, Rosie.
And that's for an older demographic, in my opinion. I mean, again, my 50-year-old uncle watches Joe Rogan, so I can't.
I mean,
Joe Rogan. I will say Joe Rogan. I mean, he's definitely gone pretty alt-right, but he used to be pretty well down the middle.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember some like lib centrist roommates of mine like in this show.
Oh God.
Oh, I mean, he definitely is not stupid the way Alex Jones is. But
Yeah.
Listen, the only time I actually sat down and watched Joe Rogan.
I'm sure that there's some kind of partisan donors that are going to the Joe Rogan show at this point.
I think I only sit down and watch Joe Rogan when he had Alex Jones on the show in 2019. I couldn't stop fucking laughing.
Oh my God.
Because it's how idiotic it was.
Friggin' frog's gay.
No, that's not what they were talking about. It's so like funny too. Where I am now, it's like it's like you have that like hardcore. I had that hardcore Trump Republican phase like when I was like in high school, and you say, well, that's high school. It's like you're kind of meant to be like the edgy. It's cool because everyone else is doing it. I'm saying this because I went to a private school, so
yeah, that might have shaped some of that.
I mean,
let me ask you. You said you went to a private school. Was it Catholic?
So I am Catholic, but it was a Southern Baptist school.
Oh, that makes sense. I was gonna say, I mean, when I think of private school, I think of the two private schools that I know of in Meander and I's area, and they're both Catholic schools. And I would think, well, you'd think there'd be a lot of MAGA people. I mean, look at Trump's former Attorney General.
I mean, and then like, it's so like you cringe on it. I cringe on it now because where I am, because I don't stand by a lot of the stuff I believed in when I was younger. Nobody does. Unless you're like super old or like you were like a centrist in 2016. It's like, woo, there you go.
Yeah.
Centrist in 2016. Nobody.
I mean, no, but it's like, look. I mean, that's what you're older. You want to punch your teenagers because you believe in it. But that's the part of growing up. The part of growing up is when you realize the stuff you did as a teenager, it was cool at the time, but then you look at it, you're like, man, I look fucking stupid. It's like,
that's me and my glam metal phase in middle school.
I mean, glam metal, I feel like with glam metal, you weren't really looking stupid. It's just you were into a trend that was long dead at that point, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
You're just like...
Unfortunately for me, at a time, particularly during the Not So Final tour, Motley Crue was my favorite band.
Oh,
and in
boy.
fact, up until at a certain point, they were the band that I had seen most in concert, and I've now seen them 10 times live. And I had the same effect on them as Kiss did with my dad, and realizing, man, they are so corporate to the T.
Yeah. It's important to have that sort of experience with, your favorite rock bands, I think. That's sort of
Right, because
peek behind the curtain.
That was me with Metallica.
Well, Metallica still are pretty solid in regards as a band. I mean, again, the last 2 albums, you can't say they sucked. One thing, and again, number 2,
I can't.
they still put on a frickin' phenomenal show. And number 3, as corporate as the events are, they're still worth the money for well, maybe not worth the money, but you are getting what you were promised paid for. And number 4,
Metallica.
The number 4, unlike Motley Crue, Metallica are good musically because, I mean, when Motley Crue on the reunion tour, because they're not using any pyro whatsoever on the current tour or the last 2 tours that they've been on since the reunion, I realized that they are pretty much all smoke and mirrors for the most part.
That's good. Less risk to Hetfield.
Oh, no, Hetfield, I think, is actually pretty solid. I think it's Lars that's the weak link.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on.
And
he's always been the weak link.
I agree with about the douchebag Tommy Lee. He made an Instagram post in 2015 making fun of Hetfield because they were on a festival slot together, hotly going on before Metallica. He made a Straight Outta Compton meme, but it was Straight Outta Tempo, and it was a picture of Lars Ulrich backstage.
Yeah. I mean,
no, hang on. Oh, hang on. Wait, what's that?
I'll go as far as to say that I think that if there's anything that is underrated about Motley Crue, it is actually Tommy Lee as a drummer. I mean, I think he's better than pretty much. I certainly think he's better than Lars, and I think, honest to goodness, like, if you gave him the opportunity to try out for any band other than Motley Crue, he would easily make the slot. I mean,
he is a damn good drummer. He played for a few of the Latter Day Smashing Pumpkins albums, if I recall correct.
Oh God,
that's exactly what I mean. Is like people really have no idea how good of a drummer he really is. And again, I mean, a lot of people say that the music Motley Crue plays is simple. Now, from a singing, bass, and guitar perspective, yes, because I've done all the above. But I actually tried drumming some of this. I'm like, damn, that's pretty freaking hard. Like, you could see this being done. You could see this being done by, like, some thrash metal bands or something like that. And I was going to say, I think he's just as good, if not better of a drummer than a lot of the thrash metal drummers. That's some pretty damn good thrash metal drummers. Certainly better than Lars.
Meander heard late stage Smashing Pumpkins. She got terrified for a moment.
I did, because the 2023 album, A Tomb, yeah... If it wasn't for Dark Side of the Moon Redux, that would have been the worst album of I heard last year.
Man.
Also, you also hate Billy Corgan as a person, which I don't blame you. You want to spit on that bald man.
He is the most punchable looking baldy since Kevin Spacey and Superman Returns.
Speaking of bald man in a band from the 90s, what do you guys think of Live?
What? I haven't listened to Live.
I haven't listened
to that much.
What I didn't realize is that their song Lightning Crash is about miscarriage. And my dad would always drive my mom insane when she was pregnant with me and sing that song to her.
Oh, God.
Wait, no, Meander, you said punchable bald people. I recommend the lead singer of Disturbed as a new candidate.
God.
Oh, God, yes.
Let's not go into that though. Like
this is another band that I've never understood what it is that people like about it. Again, one of the reasons why I say that the 2000s were not a good decade for rock. And those bands that
it's sponsoring bald people.
Yeah.
I'm going to a festival called Louder Than Life. I've discussed it earlier on this. I'm going to Louder Than Life this year. They're on the lineup, but somebody else will be conflicting with them. And I'm going to be watching literally whoever is on at the same time, or just going to get like a drink or something during their set, because I am not watching Disturbed.
That's
I'm sorry.
fair. That's fair.
I think Body Count's playing at the same time as Disturbed, who were on the same year that Meander and I worked together.
We saw Rob Zombie instead.
Well, I mean, Kiss, Rob
Made
Zombie,
the good choice.
and Alice Cooper. Kiss, Rob Zombie, and Alice Cooper. I mean, that was one of my dream triple bills. I mean, what do you think of that, Rezzy?
That's pretty cool. It's pretty lit.
Right, exactly. But at the same time as Rob Zombie's set was Body Count on another end of the festival grounds on another stage.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the
Just
thing.
like Meshuggah on the other end of the festival when Shinedown was on, and
Meshuggah
sorry,
was
Duke,
the
I gotta go
easy
with Meshuggah.
And
Meshuggah was
Yeah.
the
wasn't it the same set you got Rona?
Mm.
We haven't figured out which
I think I
set
got Rona during
Leander got
Kiss.
COVID from. And I was going to say, I didn't get COVID from that. I got tested from that, and I tested negative, and I think I tested like 2 other times after that. I'm not really convinced you got COVID from that event. I mean, like, you literally sat next to me the entire time.
Hey,
You know,
test
it's
don't lie.
Back.
I hate how that's something we have to worry about now for like fucking concerts being mass spreader events. It's fucking
Well,
shit.
so is the flu.
Mask up,
I
fucker.
wouldn't worry about COVID anymore because here's the thing: COVID's
I
not
mean,
a
it-
pandemic anymore.
It is, yeah. COVID has gotten a lot weak, but at the same time, just the fact that it's another fucking disease we got to worry about catching now whenever we're
It's
out and about.
Well, be vaccinated. Don't listen to Dave Mustaine and Alex Jones about the vaccine.
Yeah.
My thing is, it's so funny too. Meander, Meander. I thought you got Rona during Jack Black, during his
Oh,
Tenacious D
Tenacious
set.
D. And we watched
It's just D,
that
so I
instead
got
of
COVID from
Breaking
Bowser.
No, the
Good.
point too is I remember she got Rona like a week or 2 after I had Rona, so I still don't know how the fuck I got Rona. It just like happened. I'm just like, you
Well,
just
to this day, I've
Yeah.
never gotten it, including the time. Again, if Meander really says that she got it from Louder Than Live, I mean, I really got lucky on that one because, again, I mean, you rode in the car in the front seat with me, so how did I not get it?
I think
Maybe
you're-
I gave it to you asymptomatically. I don't know, but here's the thing: is that months before that, my grandma got it. I live with my grandma, and I didn't get it.
I think your body's too good.
Wow.
Well, maybe, but I also think this. I think COVID was in the United States and far worse than we made it out to be before we officially declared it a pandemic. And I remember that, me and a lot of the people that I was around, particularly at work, I got real sickly with sort of like flu-like symptoms, but as if they had been vaccinated. But like there were strong coughs and everything. I'm just like, maybe I really did get it early on, and it'd been with us longer than we had known.
Yeah.
I mean, they did say the first case of Rona was around in the States around January or February, so and it
I think
massively
it was
spread.
before that, but that was around that time. It was around that time.
What did you say, Meander?
Superbug!
Yeah, the King Gizzard.
Rattlesnakes.
They
Rattlesnake!
called that some-
Well,
When you
literally have a song about a plague from a 2019 album.
Right.
did they predict the
Yeah.
future? Was King
yeah,
Glizzy trying to tell us something?
they definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Bruh.
y'all, I feel like I'm beginning to reach the limits of my exhaustion here. I haven't had dinner yet, so
Yeah, sounds about right.
if you don't mind, I think we can call it here. But thank you all so much for coming on.
It's
and
been a good
being
one.
guest. This was
Thank
a
you for
fun
having
It was nice talking to
conversation.
y'all.
And by the way, guys, if you
Yay.
haven't followed the Algorhythms podcast yet, follow the link in the description and do so for us. We
Also
greatly
And
follow
I'm-
us on Twitter and
Instagram,
Instagram.
Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook.
I'm dropping it in the
you're-
chat, the Spotify link at least.
Message in a bottle.
Hell
We'll be
yeah.
everywhere.
Yes, but yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. I don't know when I'm gonna be doing another music talk stream, but for y'all in chat following me, follow the algorithms. Stay tuned into my community tab for news for new events, and I will see y'all next time. Bye bye.